I know I was born for this. Don't care for the critics, my words are like physics, a force that they can't stop. They just don't get it, I think they forget I'm not done till I'm on top. I know I was born for this. I know I was born for this. I believe we can write a story.
Hello, everyone. Good afternoon, good morning, happy day, aloha, whatever in your community they say when they say hi. Thanks for coming to spend some time with us here, Wise Leadership Solutions. Another Words from the Wise opportunity. Today, we've got a very important guest. Before I get to introducing the guest for the day and bringing him on board, I want to talk about a few things. Number one, we are sponsored by Wise Leadership Solutions, located in Ocala, Florida, North Central Florida. So if you're interested in leadership development, organizational leadership improvement for your teams, and just talking to somebody that's really into leadership, let us know. Hit us up. We're local here. We work with everybody, but because of the schedule, it's actually a lot more fun when we can get with people in real world. Next up, Church of Hope, South Ocala. That's my home base. A couple of big things there. Number one, this Sunday is 3G Sunday, so don't go to the church. Hopefully, you've connected with the church to get a school because they're coordinating with Mount Tabor Church as well, and they're going to be sending out people all across the county to minister and to pray on all the schools as we get ready to go back to school. And so please recognize that opportunity and hopefully you plug in. Also, August 17th, they're going to 3 services on Sundays, right? And what's dope is the 10 o'clock service where I'm helping them stand up a middle school ministry or a middle school group called Prime Time. And we're doing that for the kids that are 6th to 8th grade, going into 6th to 8th grade. And it's going to be real exciting. Looking forward to giving those kids a special place to go to get to know Jesus and hopefully get to know friends as they get ready to go back to school. So that's going to be a lot of fun. And then last but not least, my Vanguard High School Navy Junior ROTC, Ocala, Florida. Y'all know what time it is. It's almost time for us to get that ship underway, shift colors, deploy, and we're going to have a great school year. If you want to know more about the Vanguard High School Knights, please check out all of our socials, man, because we're outside. I appreciate y'all. And now, next up, I'm going to introduce my guy. This is my brother in Christ. This is my brother in Damage Control. He was my brother in the Navy Chiefs mess. And what's special for me is this guy is genuine. And I don't just say that because I got to initiate him. I don't just say this. I got to accept him into the mess. I've known the guy for a long time, and he's about as solid as you can be. And so I just really hope y'all are excited to hear and meet this man. He goes by the name of Tony. So Mr. Tony Cook, welcome to the stage, bro.
Hey, how's it going?
What's going good, man? It's going good. It's good to see your face, bro.
Yeah, it's been a minute. It's been a minute. I
Wait a minute,
appreciate you having me on.
yeah, I remember before we get started, bro, because I want to get into all that, but I just really I felt this morning I got up, did my thing, hit the gym, and as I'm getting ready to go, I'm like, I felt God say, Gary, you need to start praying at the beginning of these conversations because I'm praying with myself, but I'm not really
Yeah.
praying typically with the people that I'm on the podcast with. And so, if you don't mind, I'd like to just take a moment, say a quick prayer, and
Yeah,
then we'll
please
get this
do.
going. Okay. All right. Lord, amen. It's me and Tony, man. We appreciate you, God. We appreciate all the blessings you've given us, the air in our lungs, the
Thank you.
opportunity to have another day on this earth, the chance to hopefully have a meaningful conversation that maybe will touch someone's life that's out there looking for us, right? I'm not sure why, but we just hope that whatever we say, however we say it, comes across the right way, communicates to the right people, and really does a good job of what I hope, what I know is sharing one of the most valuable stories in this world. And this is the story of a man walking in Christ and doing his best every day. And so, Lord, we thank you once again for this opportunity and for all the blessings that you give to us. And again, we just ask that you just cover down on us, watch our back. And we say these things in the name of your Son and our Lord Jesus Christ.
Jesus Christ.
Amen.
Amen.
Amen. My guy,
Yeah.
my man. So, Tony, you and I first met SWAS, Norfolk, Surface Warfare Officer School Learning Site. I was at the DK School, which is the Senior Enlisted Damage Control School. You were at the Fire School. And As a matter of fact, I actually really remember the first time I met you was when you made Chief, right?
Mhm.
Because you might have been a DC1 over there at the time, but I was like this Master Chief over the other place, right? Right.
Right.
I mean, that's how it was. But then when you made Chief, okay, now we're gonna see each other a lot more. And I was given the opportunity to be in charge of the initiation season because the other Master Chiefs were older, right?
Yeah.
They didn't want to deal with it. They didn't want to deal with all the drama. They wanted to come and go as they saw it, and they knew I was going CMC. So they're like, Gary, you got it, right? Um, and we're gonna get into all that, but I will tell you where I really got a chance to know you really well was the day y'all came over to my house and y'all spent some time with my family.
Yeah.
You remember that day?
I do. I do.
Yeah,
That was real.
yeah.
It was a
Y'all
great
came
day.
through. Y'all did some yard work, whatever it was, and man, we had some good conversation on that day. And from that moment, we just been connected, right? I mean, period. Uh, and so I know the value you're about to bring to the people, bro. Because again, a lot of the people that watch this podcast are my students, their families, and of course, a lot of our military community has been dialing in as well. Plus, other people, right? It's not just vets, it's not just military, but I think that your story is about to be so powerful because of the climate of the world that we're in today. uh, you're a testament to what you can do and what you can get done. So let's start from the beginning, and I say that because Tony is going to say he's from a bunch of different places, but what I remember he's from Chicago, right? So Tony, tell me about that, bro. What was life like for you coming up, and why Chicago out of all the places you lived? Do you reflect on that as being home base?
Whew. So that's a wild one. So dad was a government contract who worked for the government as a contractor. So he moved around a lot, right? So my childhood was based a little bit of everywhere. However, the family and the background of the family um, comes from the South. You know, my dad is black, my mom is Mexican, and how they met was they met in Joliet, Illinois. But the roots, my family migrated north up into Chicago. So aunts, uncles, cousins, uh, they're all from the Chicago area, from the south side of Chicago. So
Mhm.
that's always been home base for me. So growing up as a kid, we'd always go into Chicago, visit the family. I ultimately ended up living there, um, joined the Navy. Just life ended up back home. My grandma took me in Chicago, and I started building myself um, there. So that's my home foundation. So
Okay, so
uh,
hold on real quick before we move past that. Uh, what was it as a high school kid? Did you graduate?
I did graduate, thank
Okay.
God.
So what was it as a high school kid that made you possibly think the Navy was going to be an option? Or did you even think you had any other options besides joining the service?
No, so like you said, let me back up. So I was on my own at 16. So parents divorced when I was about 12. Pops put me out when I was about 16. So fortunate to live with a friend at the time. Didn't end up on the streets. His family took me in, and uh, had a girlfriend at the time, my high school sweetheart, who's now my wife now. She had a baby who was 1 year old, and I ended up getting her pregnant again. Come to find out, Jasmine, the oldest, was not mine. However, we didn't know, but I know she got pregnant. At the time, I was doing no good. Couldn't get a job. I
Say
was.
it ain't so, bro. Say it ain't so.
We'll
We
keep it
all a bunch of
real.
reformed knuckleheads, Tony. We know that.
I'm definitely that guy, you know. So I was selling drugs and just wasn't doing good. So
Yeah, I get it.
having two kids and reflecting on life, I was like, well, I ain't got no other choice. I wanted to do better than my pops,
Yeah.
and I wanted to give my kids an opportunity. So I was like, well, it's hit the fan. There's no other option. Let me go join the military. So true story. I went to the Marines first, and I went into the Marine
Yeah.
recruiter.
Yeah.
I walked in the office. He stood up from his desk. He looked me up and down, and he said, "Nope."
Bruh.
So for me, having the attitude I did back then, I was like, I'm out. You don't want me. I don't
Yeah.
want to be part of you. So
Yeah.
I walked out. Army recruiter walked into the Army recruiter. Army recruiter set me down, and I was going to join the Army. On the way out of there, the Navy recruiter was standing there, and he was like, "You going to join the Army?" And I was like, "Yep." And he was like, "Come on, man, let me talk to you for a minute." So I said, "Okay, I'm open." So I walk in there. He brings out his cruise book, and look
Mm.
at this. So he
Mm.
started showing me the cruise book, all the different ports he had been to, all the, different things that he's done. And he was like, "Why do you want to join the Army, learn how to dig a hole and live in it for 6 months when you could travel the world and do
Yeah.
this?" So
Yeah.
I was like, "Yeah, that's me." So that's
Man,
how I ended up joining the Navy.
that's great. You know what's funny, man, about that story? Of course, there's a lot of things that I relate to. I remember, bro, there's like no pictures of me as a teenager, right? And I think it was on purpose. But number one, we didn't have cameras like we have today, easy access.
True.
And number two, all the pictures I took, I wasn't taking them. It was people in the neighborhood taking them. I was always in the group photo, Deboing up, right, being Mr. Cool. Um, but I think back on how I looked at that stage of my life, and I think, what would I say to me at that age? And probably I'd say nope. Like, nah, dog.
Right.
And so the fact that those people took the time to have the conversation with you, and the Marine turned you away immediately, just for people understanding that when you make a choice off of a first impression, you might be missing a very important conversation, right? And I love when people stereotype me now.
Hmm.
Don't judge me. Good, good. You're not ready for what I'm about to bring, dog. So don't think I'm about to bring the heat, because when I come with it, you're gonna be caught off guard, and then tap tap tap,
Facts.
right? It's a wrap. And so I felt that. And then when it comes to the cruise book sharing, when I was a recruiter, I used to go do I do things with the Army recruiter, right? We would go together. Her and I were about the same age. This is when I first got to recruiting, even before I met my wife Erica, right? So I
Okay.
was talking to her, whatever it was. We was talking, and she would do this thing. She did it. She caught me slipping one time. She threw a pin out in the carpet. She said, "This is you in the Navy. Psh, that's the ocean. Any questions?" And I was like, "Man, it's like that. Like, we doing each other like that." So then it was my turn to go next. Again, you should never do that. You let me go first.
Challenge.
Don't give me the material you're gonna use on me, because I'm gonna flip it. So when I got up there, I said, "Hey, real quick before I say anything else, this is you in the Army. Whew, that's Missouri, bro. Everywhere the United States Navy goes on the beach, baby." Just so you know, let's just put that out there. And so I can relate to the recruiter showing you. And back in the day, man, those cruises was freaking great, right? And the cruise
Yes.
books, I mean, how many adults I can say they have had those adventures in their adult life? And unfortunately, it's not many. They may
Right.
get like one good vacation or like one good carnival cruise or whatever it is. But sailors, we get some time to chill. we
Blessed.
get
Yep.
we get some time to parlay, especially when we're younger and a little bit more crazy. So when you join the Navy and you get to the recruiter, he gets you the MEPS, whatever it is. Are you able to get a job right away, or do you come in undesignated?
So I came undesignated. So true story. I was a little bitter when I first came in. So I was bitter because I told the recruiter I wanted to be a firefighter,
Okay.
right? I wanted to be a firefighter. I knew that. I was going through the different rates and I chose, to be a firefighter. Recruiter said, "Yeah, I can make you a fireman." I had no idea. No idea. So being a fireman in the Navy, obviously, as you know, is undesignated.
Yeah.
So I go in undesignated and I end up with the GSMs, right?
Right.
So But I'm bitter because I find out that GSM is not a firefighter. It's not, you know. So I was a
And
little
so for everyone
salty.
who's listening, GSMs are gas turbine mechanics on the gas turbines for like the destroyers and the cruisers. Before we get to that real quick, bro, and I'm sorry I didn't ask this first, but coming from Chicago, going right into basic training, you ain't got to go far because it's right there. How was that for you from going from knucklehead, serving on the streets, out there, doing your thing, independently running things? Now you're part of a team and you got these grown men in your face letting you know that they think that you're not ready.
Hated it.
Did you hate it?
Hated it. I hated boot camp. I
Okay.
actually, true story, I got in a fight in boot camp. Was supposed to be ASMO'd back. Um, However, because of the team, by the end of it was towards the end of boot camp, everybody kept quiet.
Mm.
Um, but boot camp for me, it was a love-hate relationship. I take it back. Um, I loved it because of the structure,
Yeah.
which I didn't have. I
Yeah.
loved it because of the challenge. But the part that I didn't like about it was the whole point of someone in my face telling me what to do,
Yeah.
because that was hard for me, who are you, to tell me.
Well, and plus, bro, I can only imagine, right? You talk about pops put you out at 16. You a young man. Look, I had a lot of strong role models in my life coming up, but they weren't good.
Right,
Right? And they
right.
was hard, right? They were hard to deal with. So I can handle the structure. I could be a militant, right?
Hmm.
But once you get done dirty a few times, now you start to question authority. And certain people, what makes us even more wild than the other people is I could follow a step, homie, but guess what? I'm not doing that. And now I'm not afraid to buck up on you. And so I can see where you coming from this position of having possibly some concerns listening to people, right? And
Yeah.
then there you are, right? But
Yep.
but you said the team gave you some support, so you got into something and they had your back. How much did that matter to you at that point in time?
It was everything because at that point in time, I had realized that the Navy was all I had.
Mm,
So
bro, I
a
feel that too.
little story while I was in there. I went in there because of the family, but while I
Hmm.
was in there, we had a miscarriage. So, the baby wasn't going to be born. And at the same time, found out that Jasmine wasn't mine. So, my wife at the time said she needed some time and we broke up. So, I was in there because of her, right? But now I got nothing.
Mm,
And that's actually the first time that I broke, right? You know, it was night, nobody's around. I put the covers over my head and I just let it all out.
yeah.
But in that moment, I remember my mom telling me, if you didn't read the Bible, you're going to hell. So I was like, okay, well, this is all I got. It was the first time I cracked the Bible and first time I started reading a little bit. And I was like, it blew my mind because I was like, this is happening today, right? I'm going through these things right now. And it was relatable to me in that moment. So that was the beginning of the little seed that was planted and changing my life and my
Mm.
path. But anyway, so I finished boot camp.
Hey, real quick, I don't want to skip on that real fast. A lot of people going through basic training do have pivotal things happen in their life, it feels like, for whatever the reason. I don't
Mhm.
know if it's because of the pressure. I don't know if it's because of the life change. I don't know if it's other people can't bet on us anymore because they feel like we're gone. So they're going to make a decision that's going to impact us or whatever it was. And so I know a lot of people will relate to the fact that you turn to scripture and turn to faith in that time because there's a lot of people going to church and boot camp, right?
Yeah,
every
true. Very true.
every Sunday, right? And it's gonna be the same thing on the ship. I guarantee when you get to the ship, if you go through hard times, you're gonna make your way to that Sunday service on the boat and find
Facts.
connection, find community, right? And so I just want everyone to understand that he's being just keeping it 100 with y'all. Here he is out there on a limb trying to change his life in this stressful pressure cooker of people that are making him feel every day like he's not good enough and he's not going to make it. And then, oh, by the way, the people he was doing it for, unfortunately, I mean, and nothing against them and their choices and their decisions, because life is lifing for everybody, right? So no
Well
judgment.
said.
No judgment, right? No judgment. I've been there, dog. I can tell. I got a very similar story. So, having the ability to not put the blame on that person, but to go to God and like, God, how can I figure this out? Huge, right? And so, for everyone listening, that's a cheat code, right? Just saying. When in doubt, pray it out, right? Give the Lord an opportunity to step in and fill you up with that strength, and then shoot, move, and communicate, baby. Right?
Right.
After you get that prayer in, after you get aligned with God, strap up, shoot, move, communicate, and step out. So now here you go. You're leaving basic training. You go to that little rink-a-dink fireman ATD training course, which is like 3 days that I went to it as well. What year was this, by the way, for you?
I graduated in April '96.
So you graduated high school in '96.
Boot camp.
Because I came in '97, right behind you in March of '97. So you're coming in '96. How long was that fire? It's like 3 days, right? The school.
Yeah, I believe so. I don't
3
remember too
days.
much.
3 days, bro. That's nothing. Like I remember, it's like this is a valve. Right? This is a valve. It comes in, it goes out. Any questions? Okay, you're out of here. It was so, like, I spent more time waiting for class to start and walking around the base trying not to get in trouble than I actually spent in class, right? Like, to learn how to be essentially for everyone listening to a story, a fireman, in particular an undesignated fireman, is essentially a Navy engineering apprentice, right? You have no specific job, which means they can put you anywhere they need you. And the idea is they're going to check to see what you learn the best. And then eventually you can maybe get into that position, right? So, but you wanted to be a firefighter and you went to the GSMs down in the engineering, the propulsion plant.
Correct.
Right. And you said you didn't enjoy that time with the GSMs?
No, not at all.
I said, no.
No. But to be honest with you, that's when I first met JJ.
Okay.
Because he was a GSE.
JJ is a good friend of yours. Okay.
Mm-hmm. He was a GSE.
A fireman as well?
He was a GSE 3. He was a third class.
Okay.
So that's gas turbine electrician.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I didn't. Again, I came in there with a little chip on my shoulder. What I did respect, though, I had to respect it. It's because back then, in those days, they were able to go hands-on, right? So, me coming in thinking I was this guy, that guy with a little chip on my shoulder, I got handled. They took me down to the bottom of the ship, and I got handled. So,
yeah,
but it was respect. Because that's the way it was.
Nowadays they call that a friendly fade. In the vernacular today with the kids. And look, coming up, bro, let's be honest, it was the same way back home. Right?
Yes.
Whether it was flat boxing or they escalated into being a wrestling match, escalated into being something a little bit more serious. And hopefully the people that care about y'all will pull y'all apart, but y'all need to calm down. It's getting too far. But
correct.
The real ones want to see, okay, bro, you said you real. There's a quick way to figure this out, right?
Correct.
And that's it. And back in the day, engineering plant, bro, 100%. We used to have a Pit Snipe Wrestling Federation belt, bro, on my first trip. A belt. It was a weightlifting belt. And trust you me, guys would walk down on watch, taking the watch with the belt over their shoulder, bro. Like, you want the belt? The belt. And it wasn't wrestling, bro. It was straight. It felt like UFC fighting, bro. It was like, we didn't know what jiu-jitsu was, but you was down there getting choked out.
Yes. Do you guys have birthing wars? We used to have the birthing wars.
Bruh.
Engineering birthing versus ops birthing,
Put it like this. In the Navy, everyone listen to our voice. He's talking about birthing. Birthing is where we all sleep, right? In the Navy, if you don't sleep in that birthing, don't go up in that birthing alone. Don't go up in that birthing like you know what you're doing. because we do not like thievery, right?
Yes.
And if something comes up missing, we blaming you. A matter of fact, sailors are so salty, they'll remember something that was stolen like a year ago and see you and think you might be the one that took my stuff a year ago. And
Yeah.
I remember my boots got stolen my first ship, and I
Mm.
went there. I had been on the ship like 2 months, and I went down to the pit all watching tennis shoes. And my second class is like, "Wise, where's your boots?" I said, "I don't know." I woke up and they was gone. He was like, "Is your name in your boots?" I was like, "Well, yeah, I'm new." I was like,
Right.
"Yeah, I had written my name and my boots up on the tag." He's like, "Bro, go back and find your boots." Sure enough, I found my boots in air department berthing, bro. One
Wow.
one berthing down. Went back down to the berthing. He was like, I went back down to the pit, and this is not the best advice, but here's what he told me. He said, you put your boots on?" I said, "Yeah, I'm wearing them. I found my boots." He's like, "Who took them?" I said, "I don't know, everyone asleep." He said, "Nah, go back, put the boots back, wait till the guy come get them, and then do what you gotta do." Sure enough, that's what I did, bro. Went back, put them there, laid the trap, handled my business because he was like, "Look, you're gonna teach them Airedales. They're not gonna come and engineer and berthing and steal no
Still
one's boots."
boots.
And
Yeah.
I don't know to this day why, how, what. And it wasn't like it was some major cage match, but there was an altercation had, right?
Right. Right.
And it was like, bro, you're not gonna take my, and I had to stand on my business, and it was what it was. And to this guy's credit, after we got to know each other along, he was a young dude too. He lost his boots somewhere in the game, and he didn't think twice about it was my boots. He just snuck into another berth and grabbed someone's boots that looked about the right size,
Right.
right? And there you go. And so we're very protective over our birthing spaces. And so you got that part, and then the other part is you've got competition, right? We're competitive. So what was
Very.
y'all birthing wars about on your ship?
So you name it. We did it for fun, just cause.
Yeah,
But yeah, there was some thieves, and people got handled that way as well. But it
yeah.
just became a birthing competition. It was us against the Airedales. So we'd be chilling, watching TV. When we had downtime off a watch. Next thing you know, there'd be 5 or 6 of the Airedales coming through the birthing. Coming
Yeah.
to wreck house. So then it'd be the
Hey,
call, get on the J dial real quick. Hey, officers down here in the burden. And it
you
would
need
just be a big
backup.
match. But that was on the Kid, the USS Kid. So the Kid was an all male ship, at the
Yeah.
time before, the integration of the females. So that was my first experience, with the Navy.
And so when you got there, you working as a GSM or you're working with the GSMs, were you just
Hmm.
like messenger of the watch, rover, baseline,
Correct.
first? And so
Bilge
uh
cleaner.
it built, yeah, yeah. Hey bro, I remember my first year in the Navy, I was so proud because I didn't qualify nothing, right? Like I was like, bro, I was good at skating, right? I used to throw some gloves on and grab a clipboard and just walk around real fast. Like I was always tasked with something. And it wasn't until after about I was in the Navy like a year because there was number one, there wasn't the level of urgency put on qualifications like there was later in my career. I don't feel like, and I was on LHA.
True.
There was a lot of people, right?
So back then it was about becoming a master of whatever your trade was.
Yeah,
So if you were a D seaman, for example, you were the best D seaman that you could be. It was prior to getting a college education and all of that. It was about being a master of your job.
but if you're undesignated, you don't give a damn about none of their job.
And I was a master in stripping and waxing. That's what I was. I stayed stripping and waxing some decks.
Bro, I don't know when did the Navy stop stripping and waxing decks? 'Cause it feels like my first years, I was stripping and waxing a lot of P-ways too. I think it came when they started laying down that other new decking that they got,
Yeah.
right? Because we used to strip wax a lot of decks, and they started laying down like that freaking polyurethane stuff that just supposed to stay shiny. It looks like crap. I mean, but that's remember when they wore the NWUs, the blueberries, they laid down on the deck and they blended right in with the deck.
Yeah. When those
All
first
right,
came
so
out.
my guy, so you're on the USS Kid. Where's the Kid out of?
So the kid was out of Norfolk. However, I met it in Panama. So
Okay.
they were down there doing drug ops. So my first day. on the ship, my chief and my first class took me out. Hey, welcome aboard. This is where you're gonna be sleeping.
Yep.
Drop your bag. We're all headed out. So we all went out. They got me blasted. Not gonna lie. My first class, Woody, I remember his name, GSM1 Woody, picked me up and took me across the brow because I was done. Right,
Day one.
day one.
How old are you?
18, 19, 18.
Okay.
Took me down, put me in my rack. Said, "Don't worry about getting up tomorrow. We got you." It's like,
Yeah.
because they already knew. But that was my introduction. I never forgot it. To
Yeah.
me, as far as leadership goes, that was the type of, in my opinion, leadership that I always wanted to be like, right? So they used that opportunity to get to know me day one, right? So we're gonna get him out here, get him a little, tipsy, but get to know who he really is as a person, as a young man. And I know we can't do that nowadays, but back then, that was my introduction, and that's how I started to open up and get to know those guys a little bit more.
Okay.
But
So as you're going through your time, how long does it take for you to get to where you get to actually select a rate? And how did you land on, or a job, like a career, like a tribe, if you will, in the Navy? Because in the Navy, we're very committed to our ratings. Like other
right,
people have their MOSs, we have ratings in the Navy, and I'll tell y'all, don't play with them. Like they took a rating away not too long, like a couple of years ago, and it was damn near a revolt. Like, and if you didn't know this, the United States Navy was founded, really was pirates that decided to be good. And they can be pirates real quick. Mess around and find out. That's why mutiny is
really.
a word you got to worry about. And I was talking to a buddy of mine. If you didn't know this, when the Marines first started, their role on the ships was twofold. Number one, to swing across to the other ships to fight and be sharpshooters out of the yardarms. But number two, protect the officers from the crew,
Mhm.
because you mess around and the crew will remember very quickly they don't need you to drive the boat. They may not know where they're going, but they don't need you to drive. They'll figure it out,
Real
right?
quick.
And so the Marines would sleep in between the sailors and the leadership. And I say that because in the Navy we've got a very proud sense of independence, right?
Mhm.
We have no problem being independently minded, and then we choose our teams that we choose to lock in. And a big part of that is your rate, right? Because that's your shop, that's your people. You guys got that mission, and like you said, when you're undesignated, you kind of feel like you an orphan in a sense, because
Right.
ain't no one picked you, right? I chose damage control because I was a DCPO already, right? As a collateral duty, which is a guy working on the portable firefighting extinguishing gear. And number two, it's because they had a shop. We didn't have no shops in the pit, right?
Right.
We didn't have no shops. We had the pit and we had the berthing. There was no in between, not for the junior sailors. So I'd go see the DC men and they'd be in there watching dang National Lampoon Christmas Adventure, freaking drinking
Chilling.
sodas. I'm trying to get my little pars signed up and they talking smack like, oh, we're the flying squad. You know, pair five ain't nothing. We're a pair four, bro. Y'all dying first anyway. We're the pros. We're gonna like. I was just like, bro, y'all killing me. That's why I went DC member. I thought they had
Yes.
it good. Why did you choose to go damage control?
So, again, I wanted to be a fireman, right?
Okay.
But then when I got to the kid, the DC men, they were that guy. You know, being a DC man on a ship, and I still feel that way about DC. You are that man. You are that guy that everybody goes to for the training. Everybody goes to for everything that has to do with the ship.
Yeah.
Survival wise. So I've always wanted to be, that guy when it comes to being a DC man or being a firefighter. That was just something. Saving lives is just something that was my life for somebody for a bigger purpose, I guess, is just something that was always in me. So I always wanted to be a DC man. Now, mind you, I had a bad attitude, so I got tossed around. I went from being a GSM to my next ship was the Enterprise because the kid decommed in 2 years.
Mhm.
And then I went to the Enterprise, right? Went to a carrier.
Were you still undesignated at that point?
I was, because I was a hard at it,
Okay, so you
right?
were an undesignated fireman
For three
before
and a
you went
half,
to a carrier. Okay.
almost for
Ooh,
3.5 years. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
that part.
Yes. So I went from GSM to the HTs, from the HTs up to the training department. And I was working, they put me underneath the chain in the engineering department. Maybe the chain will get them right. But that's where I learned my yeoman skills. That's how I learned how to type, and after the engineering log room is where I was at. They were
Yeah.
like, okay, we got to get them up out of here. And they sent me to training department. So in training department is where I got in trouble. And I went to captain's mast for the first time. Um, and I got in trouble for unregistered firearm and a DUI. Because
That'll do it.
what happened was I joined the military to not only take care of my family, but to get away from the lifestyle that I was living.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, I got with the wrong crowd in the military. Of course, you got everybody from all around the world coming together.
I
So I
know it well.
found my little tribe of bad boys and we did bad boy things,
Yeah.
right? So here I am doing the
In
same stuff
Virginia. Are
in
you still in
Virginia,
Norfolk?
still in Norfolk.
Hey, people that don't know, Hampton Roads gets busy.
Whew.
They
If you're
get
looking
busy.
for it, it's there, you know?
Hampton Roads gets busy. That's it. 100%.
So, yeah. So went out clubbing, was toasted, decided I didn't want to pay for a hotel. I'm gonna try to make it back to the ship. Came through the gate. They happened to do a random inspection. Told the guy he's going through his little spiel, and he was like, "If you don't comply, this is what we're gonna do." As AMA, and I was like, "What happens if I don't comply?" Because I already knew I had my gun in the glove department. And he was like, "This guy doesn't want to comply." He turned around to tell the guard check. And when he turned his back to me, I went to grab the gun and I was going to put it on me because I knew they was going to search the car. I didn't see his partner behind the car. And when I went to grab the gun, it fell on the floor. He saw the gun and he was like, "He's got a gun. He's got a gun." So
Yeah, bro. You lucky
they
you came out
drew.
of that one alive, dog.
Yep.
Let's be honest, man.
That's all God. That's
Them
all
and
God.
them dudes is not they're already nervous, right? These
Yes.
are the base security. They don't get a lot of action like that, right?
No,
And
I
here you
mean,
are, you reaching, bro. You lucky, bro. Holy cow.
very, very. So they dragged me out, hog tied me, put the whole nine, just like you see on TV, you
Oh yeah,
know.
for sure. Oh man, you
So
lucky. I'm telling you, bro, you lucky. And that guy was slipping because they should have never turned their back on you like that. I mean, of course he
right,
had his homie watching you, but they should have like driver, hands on the steering wheel, bah, like.
the whole nine.
But you have to remember at that point, you just coming through the gate. It's a random stop. They're not thinking it's nothing serious. And this is where if you in law enforcement, you don't ever know. Right?
Yeah,
You might think it's a regular stop, and that might be the guy with the zipper in there. He's about to just brat everything,
exactly.
and that's one of the scariest parts of law enforcement. And I support law enforcement wholeheartedly, but I also understand there's people out there that I'm playing for a different team. I'm not even gonna say it's the other team, right?
Right,
I don't know about you, but when I was a kid, I didn't mind police. I didn't mind. I felt about them like I felt eventually about sailors as a chief. It's their job to mess up, and it's my job to catch them, right?
mm.
If I don't catch them, they're doing my job. I was going to do what I was going to do. It's the police's job to catch me. If they caught me, good for you. You win, right? We'll go again later. But here you are. You thinking about I gotta hide this gun on my body because they about to search the car,
Yeah.
right? I mean, you're not thinking about all right. Well, here we go. No, you fighting all the way to the end in your head. Like I'm gonna make a move, bruh. And so, oh my God. So you want an aircraft carrier, new to the ship, Hampton
hmm
Roads, still an undesignated sailor, and you get busted with a DUI and now an unregistered firearm coming through the gate. Well, how are you still in the Navy, bro? Like seriously, because if you was on my ship, my command, I might have just been like, homie, you better tell me. No, I'll probably let you talk. right? Because secretly I'd probably have some love for it, right? I'm like, oh, I get it.
Right.
But what are we doing here? Like, what happened? How did you come through that?
So go to captain's mess.
Mm-hmm.
My lieutenant, my commander, my first class, standing before the captain. Captain says, Lieutenant, tell me about your sailor. Commander, tell me about your sailor. First class, tell me about your sailor. They all
This is the
said,
training department.
correct. Training department.
These are people not in rates, not in their. They are all in another department made of all temporarily assigned people.
Correct.
But they're usually pretty good people, though. They're usually pretty
None
good,
of them backed me. They were all like, he did what he did. Yep, let him go.
Right.
Okay. The last one the captain said was, Senior Chief, tell me about Fireman Cook. Senior Chief looked down. He looked at the first class. He looked up. He looked at the commander. He said, I don't know about them. He said, but Fireman Cook is the hardest worker that I have. And he said, I can't get anybody else to work as hard as he has. His uniform is always squared away. He said, Captain, if it was me, I'd keep him in the Navy. I'd give him another shot. And the captain said straight up, if it wasn't for your senior chief, I'd kick you out my Navy. Right?
So it was that too. I'm not even gonna lie, bro. Like, I would have to see you before mass as the senior chief. I'd be like, bro, you need to tell me now. What are we doing here? Because then I go to war for you. You know what I throw down.
Mm-hmm.
But if you would have said, MC, this ain't for me, the streets are calling, I would have respected that too. I just gotta go, bro.
You're a different breed, though. Well, we've always been a different breed of leader,
right? We both built different. But did you want to stay in the Navy at that point when you got in trouble?
When I got it.
Why would you want to stay? I mean, you out there running, doing what you're doing. Why would you want to stay in the Navy? You're not making rank. It's not working for you in training.
Correct.
You should be to the end of your first 4-year commitment. Why would you want to stay in anyway?
That was the only. I wanted out. To be honest with you, I wanted out. But I knew in the things that I was doing, I was supposed to have been out. But when I had that downtime, when I got locked down to the ship, I realized at that time that I ain't had nothing else. I didn't have nothing else.
I did that. Thank God for unanswered prayers, right? Because you might have thought you wanted out. Because, bro, my first 3 years in the Navy, thank God for not having cameras in the late 90s. Thank God for not having all this technology. Because over in Sasebo, Japan, we were banging, bro. Bang. You had people from all across the world, LA, New York, Chicago, Florida, Miami, Texas, right? New Orleans, late 90s, make them say, right? Back then days. And we're all in Sasebo, and we're getting wild. And we have nothing to do besides drink, pretend like we're living a life of a music video. And, I mean, bro, we used to throw barbecues on the weekends. You thought I'm telling you, watch like The Chronic, that music video, The Chronic, and that's what it looked like in Sasebo, except with a bunch of Japanese girls.
Nice,
right?
Well,
and no cars, because none of us had cars. We was all walking, carrying bottles and bricks and bags from the corner store, from the mini mart package store, setting up shop, and we would be out at the park all day playing spades, dominoes.
That was the Navy back then.
That was America back then, bro.
True.
That was the culture.
Real talk.
The Navy, because we was all from somewhere else, so we was all connecting with each other, right? And so I feel, and overseas is even a little bit more so because we got nowhere to go, right? You had a car, you had a place to go. We were stuck. But I feel all that, right? And so I also had to go through a period where I had to realize that if I had not gotten better by joining the Navy, and if I was to get out of the Navy, I'm back to square one, -10, because now I'm an alcoholic, and now I'm older, and now I didn't save all that stuff. So you're on restriction, and something about that restriction, you decide that I want to stay in the Navy. Is it just because you almost got kicked out, and so now you're like, I want to stay in, or was it like? You really
No.
recognize that you had to grow up.
So I still wanted out. So what did it though is because of what Senior Chief had did for me. My goal was I needed to pay him back, because he put his neck on the line for me, right?
Facts.
So it was when the eSWAS pen first came out. So my way of showing my senior chief that I appreciate what he did for me, because I
Yeah.
could have got out with a dishonorable. I still was going to get out, but I wanted to get out with an honorable. I didn't want to be a failure. So I studied harder than I've ever studied for anything in my life. Never studied like I studied for that. Go up for the board, I fail. Crushed me, right? I had another young guy who came to me, and he was like, "Cook, don't give up." It's like, don't give up, don't let him win. He was like, "Look at me, I got my eSWAS and my air pen." He was like, "Don't give up."
Yeah.
And I was like, "All right, boom, let's do this." So I studied even harder, right? Went back for the second time, and I got my eSWAS pen, right? So that was my way of showing, my senior chief, thank you, to make him look, good, because back then, if you got a pen, a whole ship knows, that you got your pen. So
Yeah, for sure.
after that, I ended up getting out, got out of the Navy, and I made it out with an honorable. So my goals back then, I didn't really have any. So my goal was to buy a house. This is what my goals was: to buy a house and meet a girl in every port.
Yeah.
And I didn't buy a house. So I get out. Real talk. I get out.
Bro, I've been there. I was raised in the Western Pacific Theater, right? I get it.
Yeah. So I get out. Well, it's time for me to get out, and I'm trying to contemplate. I'm looking at my life and where I can go. And if I went anywhere, I knew I was going to get in more trouble. I was going to continue down that path. But there was one place where I could go where I know I wouldn't get in trouble, and that was with my grandma. So I called up grandma, was like, "Hey, I'm getting out of the military. Can I come stay with you?"
Yeah.
And she said, "Yeah." So I moved in with my grandma, and boy, that's when my life changed.
Dad's side or mom's side?
Dad's side.
Dad's side of the family. All right, cool.
Yeah, everything is dad's side.
Okay. Where's grandma living at?
She was in Chicago.
Okay. And so you get to Chicago, living with grandma. What causes life to change by living with grandma? And I lived with my grandmother for 9th grade, so I know what it's like to live with your grandmother, bro. Trust me, that was I never watched more Little House on the Prairie my whole life.
Yes. So grandma, she was not having none of that. That sailor that came home, she wasn't having it. And because I had that love and respect for her, she was the only one to show me unconditional love throughout my entire life. So when I moved in with her, she just wasn't having it. She was like, and I'll give you an example. I had a young girl come pick me up at the house, right? She was like, "Where are you going?" I said, "I'm going out." She was like, "Who's outside?" And I said, "My friend." And she was like, "Your friend?" And she was like, "Is it a girl?" And I was like, "Yes, ma'am." And she was like, "No, tell her to leave. Tell her to leave right now." I was like, "What?" I was like, "Why?" She's like, "No woman comes pick up a man. You're a man. You need to go pick her up. And you ain't got no car, so you ain't going out." It's like, grandma. I was like, really?
She said you're not qualified to go out, bro.
Exactly. She was the one who really, yeah, you ain't no man. You ain't got no car. You supposed to go pick her up.
Yeah.
So yeah, she taught me what it was and what a real man is supposed to be like. Not the streets, but what a man is supposed to be like. And man, she just changed my life. I appreciate her. She was my everything, man. She taught me what I was supposed to be like, what a man is supposed to be, a real man. You ain't supposed to be out here running the streets, getting them numbers under your belt and doing all that other stuff. So
yeah.
She gave me an opportunity. She gave me my first job, outside in the civilian world. She called in a favor because I was trying to get a job. I was out there with a resume, walking the streets. She told me go out here, put on a little suit. And she's like, go to every little place and give them your resume and tell them you want a job. I did. I tried. But, what really did it for me, I went to the unemployment office and the veterans rep there and said, hey, I need a job, because they tell you going through the taps, you go to the unemployment office, there's a vet rep to help you get a job.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm in Chicago now. So, there's a lot of people. Vet rep was like, look at that line out the door. He was like, what makes you better than any other person in there? And he was like, here's a job working in a factory. And I was too prideful. I didn't want to do the factory job. And he was like, who makes you better? What makes you better than any of those people? And it was a reality check, for me.
Okay.
So I'm a little all over the place, but.
No, I hear it, bro. Like, I can only imagine having got out of the service, and thank God you went to grandma's house and didn't slip back into the streets, because you might not have. I mean, it's one thing to be buck wild as a teenager, right? It's another thing to be buck wild as an over 18 young man. That once you catch those, you're lucky that when they caught that gun charge, it was on base.
Yes.
Right? If that had been out in town and you caught the felony pop, you done, bro. And
5 years. 5 years mandatory it was at that time.
Yeah, it would have been a whole new world, right? And so I can only imagine the risk. And so, and to be told, I give you props for standing on your business and getting out, because I remember when I thought about getting out, and I thought I was getting out, but in my heart I was scared as hell to get out, because I knew I hadn't done no better, and I knew there was nothing back home for. Every time I went home on leave, I'd come home, drop my bags, hit the block, come back 2 weeks later, see mom and dad for a little bit, and then go back to the Navy again, right? So I wasn't no better, and none of my friends thought I was, right? My family thought I was. My family was like, oh, Gary's out there serving his country. Boom, boom, boom. I got back home with my friends. I'm the same old dude, but I got money, right?
Right.
Now,
next level.
I got gas money, bro. I got gas money. I was so prideful when I get home. Like, bro, my tank never goes under half tank, bro. I stay full. You know what I'm saying? If I get gas, I gonna get gas. Even if I don't need gas, because I remember being broke and being like, who got gas money? We put together $4 to see how far that will get us, and we hustling just to make a meal work. And so I was flossy a little bit when I come home from the service, and because I have stories to tell. Right, here's how we live overseas. Here's how these countries are. Blah blah blah. But I was like, if I get out of the Navy, go back home, I'm gonna throw it all away. So I give you props for still standing on your business and be like, I'm getting out. I'm not staying in the Navy, and then moving back to grandma. So at what point is it that you're with grandma where you decide what brings you back into the Navy, bro?
Life. So grandma gets me a job. I'm doing leasing as a leasing agent, and I end up she worked for Draper and Kramer, which is a big real estate company in Chicago. So she retired from there. So she called in a favor, got me a job as a leasing agent. And that's when I made big money. I'm making real good money, bought a new vehicle, whole nine, doing, thinking I'm doing my thing, but I was still partying. I was still doing the stuff and hiding it from grandma, right? Yeah. I get fired for the first time. So I get fired from that job because I'd go in and I was drunk. I ain't gonna lie.
Yeah.
Get fired. Now I'm struggling to find a job. Now I embarrass grandma. So I go out and I'm drinking, and I hit my first accident with my vehicle. And I did a hit and run. Crashed my vehicle. That was my second one.
So you crashed your vehicle and then you got out and then you physically ran?
No.
You put it in reverse and
so I crashed my vehicle. It was a younger guy. We get out the car And first thing I said is, "You hit me." And
Yeah,
he was
yeah,
like, "No, no, you hit me."
yeah,
And I started coming through because I was partying all night and I wasn't there. I was drinking and driving.
yeah.
And I look at and I'm like, "Yeah, you're right. I hit him." And I was like, "Hey, man, I tried to, hey, can you let me go? I ain't got no insurance. I ain't got no, and he was like, "No, I already called the police." So my wheels start spinning. How am I going to get out of this one? How am I going to explain this to grandma? What am I going to do? I was like, "Hey, let's get back in our vehicles and move out of the street so we can let the traffic go." And he was like, "Okay." So I got in my car, gone. So I
Gone.
went and hit the vehicle. Then I had my boys later on down the line tow my vehicle to the house. They brought the vehicle, and that's how I started learning how to work on cars. Because I couldn't afford, to fix it, but I slowly put it back together and got some wheels. But I would say life at that time was dark. Couldn't get
Hey,
no.
did they catch up with you on the hit and run charge?
No, never got. I'm telling you, Lord's been with me my entire time. Lord has been with me. I even did a hit and run while I was in the Navy. That's a whole nother story.
Okay.
They got so did that, got away with that. Thank God. About a year and a half out, I joined the reserves.
I don't know if God did that for you, bro. I'm not.
Well, save me from that. Yeah, it could be help.
You might have got some luck. You might have got some luck on that one,
My
homeboy.
grandma
I'm
was
not
praying
mad at
for
you
me.
for it.
Somebody
Hey,
was
listen,
praying for me.
I'm. Oh, you know what? That's the way to look at it, bro. Someone was praying for you, and I'm gonna go ahead and say a prayer for that young man who got his car hit, because I'm sure he had to answer to some people as well for what happened
Yeah.
and whatever. And look, having lived the life that I lived and having my regrets in this world for the people that I did wrong, who I never
Amen.
saw again, didn't even know who they were, just did them dirty. And truth be told, bro, I'm glad. I was just glad you didn't wreck the kid, right? Because in my thought, that's what I mean. When I was violent when I was younger. You know what I'm saying? And if you already intoxicated, you get out, or you hit my car, and he younger than you.
He
The
was,
strong will prey on the weak, right?
yeah,
And so I was glad to hear that you didn't. That part didn't happen, right? Because I was waiting to hear that part, and then I get it. I get you see a seam to dip out, you dip, right? You
yep,
make a move. And I'm never mad at somebody when they get away with it at the end of the day, because ultimately karma is karma, right?
catch up
Um,
to you.
it will, but it's just an interesting part of the story I wanted to double check, because for me, hearing the tone of your voice, it's like you got caught for that hit and run, because you're holding yourself accountable,
Yeah,
right? You're holding yourself accountable for that moment. Even if society didn't hold you accountable, you own it. And you're like, dang, that was a tough one. Okay, so now you got this broke down car at your grandma's house.
at my grandma's house.
What's she saying? She like, bro, how'd the car
Uh,
get broke?
she, you know, she really didn't say much, to be honest with you. And
She was
then
probably praying, praying, praying.
my grandfather had a little geostorm, right? Because her thing was, how you gonna get to work? And I
The
was like, I'll do whatever I got
geostorm.
to do. I'll take the bus, I'll walk, you know.
Yeah.
And my grandfather came outside and he was like, Tony, I want you to have my car. And I was like, no, heck no.
And was
You know,
granddad in the scene the whole time?
he was, but my granddaddy was quiet. He
Okay.
wasn't a man of words. If he said something to you, it was either, good job or you ain't doing a good job and I need to correct you type deal. You
And,
know, my,
and, and
my,
grandma and grandpa they were both your dad's parents.
yeah.
Okay. I mean, that's a very interesting point for me, because I'm from a maternal family as well. My grandma ran the show. My aunts ran
Hmm.
the show. The men were there. They were strong, but the women were the ones that were the most vocal, right? And
Right.
so, but I think that's an interesting thing to catch, that there was a person in the house that can give you that perspective, but he just, it sounds like he's stepping in at this point, right? He gonna give you an
Yeah.
opportunity to help out, to make a move, and giving you some wheels to get to and from work. And where are you working at now? Are you still working for the leasing agent thing, or you already been
Yeah.
fired there working somewhere leasing agent?
Yeah, I was still there at the leasing agent. It was before I got fired. So yeah, and I couldn't accept it. So apparently, I hurt his feelings. I didn't know. Apparently he went back in and told my grandmother, that he didn't want the car.
Was,
So
was it too
here's
good?
my lesson.
Was it you were too good to drive a Geo?
No, wasn't too good. It's just nobody had never done anything like that for me in my
Huh?
life. So it was hard for
Okay.
me to accept such a big gift. You giving me a
Mm,
car, you know?
yeah.
So it was pride. It was all pride because grandma checked me. When I went in, she checked me on that. And it was my first lesson on pride. She was like, Tony, she was like, your grandfather tried to do something nice for you because you don't have a car. And I was like, I don't care. I'll walk, I'll do whatever's necessary. And then she was like, listen to me. She was like, you hurt your grandfather's feelings because he was trying to do something nice for you because he knows you don't have a car. She was like, there's a time to be prideful and a time not to be prideful. And right now is one of those times where you're not supposed to be prideful because you need a car. And that's how my grandma would talk to me. She'd school me,
Yeah.
and that's why I love her to this day, because I never had that. I never had someone to come alongside me and say, hey, knucklehead, this is what you're supposed to be doing.
Coaching you up, man. She coaching you up for
Yeah.
sure. Okay,
So
so what then takes you to the Navy, back to the recruiter again? Is it recruiter you go to?
I did. So I used to mess with this young girl on the Enterprise,
Yeah.
and she followed me, right? So I get out, I go home to Chicago. She gets a job as a recruiter in Chicago, right? So at this time, life hits is rough. Um, I'm messing around with another girl, and I move out of grandma's house because I'm a big boy now. You know, I get my own apartment, but the girl that I was messing around with on the ship, she becomes a recruiter. In between that time, I'm like, hey, I need medical benefits. I need dental benefits. I didn't realize everything the Navy had to offer me at the time, my first enlistment.
Yeah.
So now I'm looking at life and I'm like, man, I had it good, in the Navy. I had a place to sleep. I had food to eat. I had medical. I had dental. And so I'm like, I want to get back in. I want to go back in
Yeah.
because I can appreciate it now going back home, you know. So I hit up old girl who's recruiting, and I was like, hey, can you get me back in the Navy? She was like, no. She's like, the Navy's really not looking for,
What year was
you
that?
know, had to be about 2000, about 2000,
Okay. And yeah,
90,
I was a
99,
recruiter. I
99,
was a
2000.
recruiter then, and NAVETs were not a thing, right? We were not bringing back in Navy veterans. Yeah.
Yeah. So I ended up joining the reserves.
Okay.
So I joined the reserves, and I'm with a CB unit at this time. So still knucklehead, still not studying to make rank or do anything like that, right? It's all about survival for me. The military has always been about survival
Yeah.
for me. And so join the reserves, 4.5 years of reserves, 9/11 happens. Um, we get activated. I go to Kuwait in support of the war, right? So while I'm in Kuwait, I'm taking care of my mom at the same time, and I use that opportunity to go back active duty. So 2005, I come back active duty. While I was in the reserves, the CMC sent me to DCA school, and that's where I got my DCA school because I was a DC
Reserve.
3 on the way out of the door when I got out the Navy the first time. I made
Okay. So
DC
you had made DC man before you got out.
correct.
When you came in the reserves, you were a DC man attached to a CB unit.
So I was, but the way that happened, I came in under the rescore program. So I was an SM. So my recruiter told me, if you don't take the test, you keep your rate as a DC. My contract came up and they were about to kick me out of the reserves because I didn't take the test for SM. They were saying you didn't fulfill your contract. I was like, well, my recruiter told me if I didn't take the test, I would continue on as a DC. So they worked it. They put me out and brought me back in on the same day, but they brought me back as a DC.
Cool. And
I know you understand that because of all
yeah. No, well, it's another story that goes to show you that they can make amazing things happen when they want to.
Correct.
Right? When you know the right people at the right place at the right time in this world today, they can make miracles happen. Right? It's just getting to know who those people are and then giving them a reason to want to work with you, right? And want to help you out and want to do those little things. And it's really not that hard. But then like that one girl told you, well, you can't do it. I guarantee if you had had the right person, they would have got you back in the Navy that fast, right? But she didn't know, and you didn't know who else to call, so you went reserves and you did what you could do. Okay, and then now you're coming back in the Navy. You're a DC man, and you got an A school now, which is dope. I never got A school. I never got no A school. I never went to an NEC school, like a school for our rate, damage control, until I was a chief, bro.
Wow, you'd have never known.
I never went to CBR and D school till I was a chief. DKs. I had to go to CBR and D to go to DKs. Oh yeah, people would always say that, bro. I remember I was at ATG San Diego leading a working group of all the ATGs, and all these people are like, you got to have all these NECs to do all these things. And my scene chief started laughing at him. His name was Dewan. Dewan started laughing at him all. Like, what you laughing at? They're like, because Wise up there, he ain't got none of them schools, and I'll put him pound for pound against any of your chiefs. But I was from the school of the deck plates. You know what I'm saying? Like,
yes.
I'm from engineering department, bro. But I wasn't, as a damage patrolman, you don't get to just be engineer. You got to be for the whole command, right? Otherwise, you're going to be short-sighted because we run multiple command programs. Okay, so when you come back in the Navy now as a DC-3 active duty that now has done time in Kuwait, time with the Seabees, time as a civilian veteran, plus your original time, how much different is this next tour about to go?
I ended up in Sasebo.
Sasa Vegas. You went to a sweep?
I did end up going to a sweep. I took an IA.
You went to Sasebo on a minesweeper?
No. I went to the Safeguard, a rescue salvage, ARS 50.
Okay.
So true story, me and JJ still friends, right? I hit him up, was like, hey, I'm coming back in. He's a career counselor at the time. And I was like, hey, I need to go overseas because I know that's where the money's at. I was like, can you get me overseas? So he got me to billet to Sasebo, Japan, on the Safeguard. So that's how I ended up in Sasebo.
And I remember the Safeguard because it was a little ship. But near the minesweepers is why in my mind I compartmentalized it as a minesweeper because I was on Bella with my first ship. What year did you go to Sasebo? That was
05, 06.
And you go there as a DC-3?
Yeah.
Back in those days, are you living on the ship?
Yes. Well, actually, no. They got barracks. We got barracks.
I'm about to say that's a little boat to live on full time.
Yeah.
Right? It's one thing to live on it when you're going underway, but to live on it full time be hard. So you got barracks, you're single, right? But you're older.
Right.
So how was that tour like for you? Because I know Sasebo could be real wild, real quick, or you could be real good at grinding and focus on work.
So here's what. Let me back up a little bit, right? So I'm in the reserves.
Okay.
I'm in Kuwait, right? Doing my thing in Kuwait. CVs, you got all the equipment from the war. Ships would come in, we'd unload them, offload them, right? So all the stuff that got blown up, we took out. All the new tanks and stuff that's coming in country, we took off. I'm sitting on a forklift and I'm complaining, right? Because it's raining and it's cold and I'm complaining about the weather. And we had a guy walk by, and he was like, you could tell the rain to stop. And this is where God comes back into my life.
He says, you can tell the rain to stop.
Right.
Okay.
Because God, dominion over the earth and every creepy thing, scripture, right? So he walks by, he's like, you can tell the rain to stop. And I'm like, man, it's like, I read the Bible. I already know I don't want to hear that stuff.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So don't know the guy, I just part of the unit.
Yeah.
And he walks by, and I'm, we're talking, chopping it up. He comes by again, and I'm still not paying attention. I'm still complaining about, and he's like, I told you could tell it to stop.
Yeah.
I'm like, whatever, man, blow him off again. So they finally take a break because the rain started to pour down pretty heavy. And then we go in the container. Everybody goes in the container to get out of the rain. And I'm sitting in there and I'm talking about how cold it is this time, right? He comes in there and he looks at me and he was like, hey, man, you sitting up here complaining, being all negative and stuff. I told you could tell the rain to stop. And I'm like, all right. So I get up, being me, I get up, smart Alec. I get up, I go outside and I look up and I'm like, rain, stop, right? Rain didn't stop. So I go back in there and I'm laughing and cracking on him, because the rain didn't stop. I told you, So conversation continues on. 2 seconds later, he taps me on my knee and he's like, Cook. I'm like, what? So look outside. Rain stopped. Rain stopped. Blew my mind. Right? How? Right? So just blew my mind. I was just perfect timing, I guess, for me.
Yeah. God's time, bro.
Man, God's it changed my life. Changed.
Bro, sometimes you got to put yourself in the position to hear what God's saying. Right?
There it is.
And his time is going to be his time regardless. Here's the crazy thing, right? How many times did he try to communicate to you that you missed it because you weren't tuned into the frequency, right? Right? I mean, I digress, but it's one of those things we look back on now as older gentlemen, right? And we look back, and hindsight's always 20/20. And then one thing that I do think about to that story is I think about how am I going to make sure that I'm aligned and I'm listening and I'm dialed in so that today, when I'm given that intuition to listen, I don't miss it. You know what I'm saying? Because, bro, it's almost always a launch pad into something else, or at least at a minimum, a refueling of your faith so that you're prepared for whatever's going to come next, because the journey is always going to have ups and downs. Right. And you got to stay ready. All right. So you get back into your faith, that reconnection for you there, you go active duty. So now you're in Sasebo on the Safeguard. It's only a 24-month tour, it sounds like. How does that tour go for you? Is that you're a D seaman from day one, which is new for you because you never really did that probably. When you struck DC on the carrier in the training department, probably teaching basic damage control up there in the training department, never having done the job.
Correct.
Now you want a Safeguard doing PMS, doing all the maintenance, doing all the drills, the training. Do you have a DC chief, I would imagine?
I did. Van Martyr.
What was his name?
Van Martyr.
Van Martyr, okay. So are you in a repair division or is this just like an engineering department?
Repair division.
How big's repair division?
There was 3 of us in HT.
Okay. And so is it just a lot of work? Do you remember was there a lot of underweight? This is after 9/11, right? So ships aren't going out like they used to.
No, but Safeguard, we went out. We went out. It was good. They were Navy divers. There were Navy divers on there.
Okay. How was the sea state on that ship compared to your first ships?
Oh, night and day. Whew.
I bet, bro.
And we went through a storm too. So we did a 3-point moor. And at the end of that storm, there was only 1 anchor holding on left. So, I mean, but I loved it. I loved it. Something crazy about that. I just loved it because I had peace. Again, God was in my life.
Yeah.
So I had peace. People freaking out, running around, girls falling out on the floor. I didn't sign up for this. I was like, get up, girl. Go lock yourself in your rack. But it was, I thrived in that moment, you know, and I just loved it. But anyway,
So when you leave Safeguard, are you a second class petty officer?
I did. I did. So now I know the importance, right? Coming back in the Navy, now getting active again is everything that I wanted, right? So now that I know the importance of studying, now that I know the importance of, you know, following the chain of command, even though my chief didn't like me, you know, I still had a chip on my shoulder. Um, I don't know why he didn't like me, to be honest with you. I think it's because I was messing around with some of the females on the ship. Um, and he
I
told me
didn't like
not
your hair, bro. You got nice hair.
I could have been it. Could have been. I've never been somebody's, you know, could have been. I've always been hated on, you know.
I get it too, bro. I catch a lot of that energy, and I had to learn to take it as a compliment almost because they, unfortunately, it makes some people uncomfortable to see people that live in their space comfortably, and and that swagger you got, that the kids call it riz nowadays, right? The charisma, that ability it will make people uncomfortable, right? So here you are, you're not a little boy, you a grown
Right.
man. Yeah, you might be a DC3, DC2, which they theoretically think about being like an 18-year-old, 19-year-old, but you're not one, right?
Right.
You've been around
That's
through a lot
it.
of things, right? So y'all are probably close to the same age, right? And you got this beautiful hair, you know what I'm saying? And oh, by the way, you can go do things that they can't do, which kind of makes them be uncomfortable because when they was younger, they wasn't doing it like that anyway. Trust me, I get it, bro. I catch all the hate. I love that Cat Williams line where he says, "My old haters starting to like me. I gotta go find new ones, bro." I love that, and it's not because I want to have people not like me or whatever it is, but I know that in this world there's going to be opposition because we live in the devil's kingdom, right? We don't live
Right.
in God's kingdom, bro. This
No.
is not the Lord's kingdom. This is the devil's playground that
Yeah.
we live in, right? So
In the world, but not of the world.
the enemy always gets a vote. I appreciate when you let me know you the opposition. Tag, you're
Hmm.
in, bro. Got it, right? We
Hmm.
can play that game. And so when I hear you say that, I just, you know, that's it's. I love that you recognize that something they didn't really care for you, but you didn't make it be no personal thing. Like, well, I don't care for you back. Now what, right?
Yeah.
Because and of course,
I'm
it's hard, especially when they got upper level leadership responsibilities and roles, right?
right.
It feels like they're in a position of power over you. And so now you got to, I'll tell you, man, when I was coming up in the service, and even now, like I know where I can go real quick. And all of a sudden you're neutralized because there ain't nothing between you and I but distance and air.
Right.
And nothing about what you think matters is going to protect you if I decide to go sideways.
Right.
And that's an empowering moment that I pray, God, please help me not feel that way. But I find strength in that thought that I can go real primal, or we can get spiritual, or we can get intellectual. Either way, right? And that's something you bring to the table too. I know that. And that comes
Hmm.
from your background, that comes from your history, that comes from your lineage, that comes from your DNA, bro. Like
Hmm.
that's why I love that song by Kendrick Lamar, that DNA song, right? Because that is our, our DNA is so powerful, you know. It really
Sorry
is.
about that.
Oh, no problem. I got dogs. I'm with you, bro. It's cool. So you finish up the time on board that ship, 2 years in the Navy, or 2 years at that point. You're getting orders in a year and a half and a year. Where are
Right.
you? Are you wanting to stay in Sasebo, or are you trying to go back to the States, or what you doing?
So that's when I took a, I think it was a GSA, took a GSA at that moment. And then after that, I took an IA. So I went back to back volunteer tours. Um, I went to the Lincoln ultimately.
So hold on. So for the GSA tour, so just so everybody understands, in the War on Terror, they started using the United States Navy to supplement the other branches, in particular the Army, right? And so a lot of sailors got opportunities to go serve in country, in Iraq, in wherever. They called it a GSA tour so that you could actually schedule it out, plan it out, and then you volunteered again. And do you think that was because of your time with the Seabees that you were like willing to go back and do it again?
Um, it was just part of me, to be honest with you. It was,
Where'd you
that
go? To Iraq?
to me, I went to Kuwait.
Kuwait?
Actually, no. Kuwait was the reserves. Into Djibouti, Africa.
Okay.
So I was in Djibouti.
So you went to the Horn of Africa where they were doing that. Was that the damage control billet, or was that a general billet?
I went as a damage control billet, ended up in emergency management.
Okay. I got it. I know that billet well. You know my favorite memory about Djibouti? I watched them lift camels off the ground and swing them onto ships like cattle, right? And I was like, bro, where are we? They're moving camels like cattle, and those big flies, bro, that would sting you when they bite you.
Oof. Painful.
Yep, so you go from Sasebo to Djibouti, working damage control, and just emergency management is also a piece of the damage control community. Just so y'all understand that it's a hard to get NEC. Did you go to the school?
No, I wish.
No. Okay, because there's an NEC for it. I think it's in Fort Leonard Wood, the same place they do the CBR NEC, and it's really a shore-based part of the organization. But I will tell you, when I became a base master chief in the future, emergency management really came into play big time. And my damage control background really helped with that because it was like a shore-based casualty, but we're used to our ship casualty management and response. And so then you go back-to-back GSA and an IA, you said? Where was that one at?
Bahrain. So we took the USS Chief, which was the mine sweep, out of California, San Diego. We brought it back to life and sailed it over to Bahrain. And then I was in Bahrain for a tour, 9 months.
Okay. And so then you come out of Bahrain. Are you a DC-1 yet or still a DC-2?
I made DC-1 out of Djibouti.
Okay. So out of Djibouti.
As soon as I got back, and I ended up at my timeline's all messed up.
Wow, but you got an interesting career, bro. And so then you finish taking the Chief, which is a unique ride, right? You deck plate sailor on the USS Chief, wood bottom ships, right? The only ship of the Navy to be named for the Navy Chief Petty Officer, right? There's a lot of heritage to the Chief. And then you end up going, you said, to the Lincoln.
Correct.
An aircraft carrier.
Correct.
And just so I'm understanding, your only real damage control experience so far is on a Safeguard and the Chief. Correct. No other ships.
Nope.
We can fit those ships into like Hangar Bay 1. Am I lying?
No, it's true talk.
So how was that then walking on? And I say this from experience. How was that then reporting to an aircraft carrier as a first-class petty officer, damage controlman, and everything that's about to bring?
I'm gonna be honest. Every time I felt inadequate.
Yeah.
I felt inadequate, but I knew that whatever position that I was going to be in, I was going to do the best that I could.
Good for you.
Good for you, I just had that mindset.
Good for you. I had that exact same conversation, not in just a previous with another previous brother, and with my students yesterday, bro, at school. We were doing some pictures, and one of my students said, "Master Chief, how does a senior enlisted deal with a junior officer that doesn't know anything about the Navy, and how can they support them? Don't you think they should have to be enlisted first before they become an officer, right?" This is a high school student. She about to be a senior, right? And I was talking with some of the other kids about past commissioning. So this was her popping off because I'm like, she want to go enlisted first. She want to be a chief, right? She want to be Coast Guard. She want to be a chief. And I was like, look, Counsel, that's her name, Counsel. So if you watch this, Counsel girl, I'm thinking about you. And so I said, look, I hear this conversation all the time, and we have it with chief selectees. We have it with leaders anywhere you go. And the bottom line is, I don't care how you got where you are. Until you give me a reason to not respect you, I'm going to respect you and convince to you the value I bring to the conversation. And if you leverage me, you will be more successful. And
Right.
I don't know your path, right? I said, because that officer probably did 4 years at junior ROTC, probably did 4 years in college and in ROTC, like an actual ROTC program, like a collegiate program. And then whatever pipeline they had to go through as a naval officer to get to that position right there and then. I did none of that. So I can't, if you look at the total numbers, 8 years of high school and college where they were probably taken way more seriously than I did, right?
Mhm.
And now here they are. We were about very similar in life experience. It's just different perspectives. And so I said, just don't worry about that. And then, oh, by the way, when I would counsel people that would be in these leadership positions that they felt inadequate for, right? They would come to me again. They would say, CMC now, Mass Chief. I just come off recruiting duty, or I've never really done things like this. What do I do? I'd say, number one, you take responsibility for your role. You took the job, you took the paycheck, you took the rank,
Right.
period. Number two, it's a whole bunch of sailors out there that have no problem you showing you how much they know and how great they are. Period. Right? Just make sure they get the love and the recognition for when they teach you and you hold them down, and then you cover down on them when it comes down the wrong way, because that's what you can do for them. And if you do that, they will take care of you all the way, right? Am I right?
Yes. Yep. I loved it. I loved it when they challenged me. I would call it a DC challenge. You know, it forced me to get in the books. To get back
Yeah.
in the manuals. And I'd welcome that. Like when I would go on watch, it would be a DC challenge. Who's got the challenge, right?
Yeah.
So that was one thing that I would do with my team, and I always quiz them and question them because I was always in the books. That's the only way I could stay ahead.
Yeah. When you go to the carrier, how is your carrier structured? Are you have like different shops?
I
Like,
went to
did you
fix
get?
systems.
Ooh.
Hmm. Yep,
Ooh.
yep, yep, yep.
That's a bear, bro.
And the
You
squad
know,
that they gave me, boy, they gave me a run for my money. But I love those guys to this day. We got tight, but in the beginning, they were trying to get rid of me. They were trying to get me fired from the
yeah,
position because they
yeah,
wanted the old LPO to come back in.
yeah.
But yeah, it was it
Man,
was a
so
great shot.
let me break that. So for people that don't understand what he's talking about, so in the damage control community, especially on our Navy ships, you have to understand these are big ships of war that have installed capabilities that we can use those before we have to put human life on the line, right? So the idea here is I've got installed mechanical systems to extinguish a threat before I have to put a human being in that space. And so I'm going to use my Halon 1301 system. I'm going to use salt water in large amounts. I'm going to use salt water mixed with essentially aqueous film forming foam to smother the fire and cool the fire. Like, I'm going to use all these installed things before I put humans in there to combat the casualty. But in order for me to have those systems ready to go 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365, my damage controlman got to do all the PMS. If y'all been watching my shows, you know I hate the Navy 3M program because it's doomed. It is a curse to the damage control community. It's
Agree.
we should have 3 times as many sailors as we have in damage control division to execute the amount of man hours we have on that ship, period, right? Like, we should be as big as the dang weapons department in damage control because of how much maintenance we have to do, whether it's installed systems, whether it's portable SCBAs, just so much life-breathing, life-saving things, right? And we don't have that many people. Damage controlmen are looked at as an afterthought still into today's Navy. And it's, as a DC man, I would fight tooth and nail over that conversation because these kids that work for me got to do that maintenance, and I'm telling them the man hours, and they do the math, and they're like, that don't math. That math
Right.
don't math, bro. There ain't enough of us to do all. Just the dailies alone on the HFF station will keep to do it right.
I believe the Navy knows this though.
They do. They do, because I told it to them many times, bro.
Mhm.
That was part of why I left the rate, bro. Part of why I left the rate, and I left out of Norfolk at the Damage Control Assistant Senior Enlisted Schoolhouse, was because I was telling the Navy this, and they just kept being like, "Oh, Master Chief, you're kind of emotional." Yeah, 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 because I'm doing the maintenance. I'm with the people, and everybody starts becoming political instead of being pissed off. How about we just throw the cards out and stop using the man-hour lie and just say, get the work done? Cool. I
That's a lot
told that
better.
to them in a conference room. I said, take the man hours off the card because it's a lie. It's a lie. We all know it's a lie. And the sailors are not stupid. They can do math, right?
Right.
They're not dumb. Well, Master, I got in trouble for another one because I'm a Master Chief. And I said, hey, I think the aviation department, the air department should do all of the dailies for all of their areas that are being covered. And the reactor department, that's what I said. I said, it should be a DCPO check to do the dailies because
Yeah.
they're really the end users of the system,
Because they're
right?
quick to say everybody's a firefighter.
We're not the ones. When I was in the main space pushing that button to cover the fuel oil, guess what? It wasn't D Seaman doing that, bro. It was the GSs, it was the MMs, it was the whoever. So they have remember you go into main space, right? And you'd find a valve shut to like a hose reel because it was leaking by and they didn't want it leaking. Okay, bro. Number one, the daily has been violated. Number two, if you push the button, the HPLF's not going to come out of that hose because you shut the valve. Number three, no one told us, and yes, we should have caught that, but okay, I got problems. I got so many things. So, hey, Navy, the HPLF dailies should be being done by the people who will actually use that gear into combat a casualty. And then they should go back to the DC men and say, hey, we got a problem with our system. Can y'all do something? We still do the quarterlies, but the daily is a lot of maintenance, bro,
Right.
if you're going to do it right.
Let me take that back. I said it. Everybody, they're quick to say everybody is a D-Seaman. In reality, everybody is a firefighter, but they're not D-Seamans.
Oh, when I was a CMC, bro, even as a DC man, I rewrote the SORM and my shit with my. And I said, look, department heads are responsible for getting their spaces underway to the commanding officer. It doesn't say DCC. It doesn't say DC1. It says department heads.
Right.
So we need to and I think the Navy needs to relook how they're looking at things because here's what they do. They hide it all under the carpet until some 3M inspection comes through or some freaking major whatever in-serve, and then they fire. There was a time I remember a guy told me, do you know Gary? I was at a CMC conference in Pac Fleet, and they're like, you know Gary, that the damage control chief petty officer is the number one fired chief petty officer on the waterfront? Bro, they weren't ready for what I'm about to come back on them with. They said it because I was a DC man, and they knew that, and they thought they were being funny, bro. And they don't, again, I'm going to take it personal. I said, you know how come that's happening? Because chiefs messes and wardrooms don't really care about ship readiness and damage control until it comes out. And then everybody wants to point the finger at DC, whoever, fire them in their career, kick them out, and then they're going to give somebody else all the support in the world to fix it when they should have been doing that from the beginning. And so I got up, I was at the CMC symposium, and they were talking about this because the Surface Force Pack guy was talking. I said, I'm just telling y'all, if you as the command master chief are not supporting your damage control leadership and fixing this, you're the problem, bro. You're the reason why they're failing. Because if we and right behind that is I'll be smacking the 3MCs around too, though, because 3MCs get on my damn nerves. You got a program that you know ain't fair, and you're not helping them to help figure out how to adequately manage it, right? I hate the whole damn program, bro. Like my thing is still get rid of all man hours, to get rid of it because nobody cares, nobody follows it.
True.
Remove it from the card. That's number one. Number two, all those damn mandatory required checks. The you know what I'm saying? Because how many dailies you saw fail because it was a mandatory required check? You do
Right.
the whole spot check great for whatever, but then you fail because the daily failed.
Right.
I said,
Right.
bro, we did all this upper level maintenance and then we fail because you want me to do a whole daily on an entire H+F system on an aircraft carrier when all I did was touch the alignment on one H+F station.
Yep. It makes no sense.
I would get so hot, bro. I'd be on the ship as a DC. I was on GW, bro. I'd be in the 3M. I'd be yelling at 3Ms. Like, I remember I got in such a big yelling match with the 3MCs on board the GW. They were 3 Master Chiefs and the Chief. I was Senior Chief. And I told, and a 3MO. I told myself, I will never walk in this office again. I don't care if the chief engineer orders me to come down here. It's not happening because all y'all are a bunch of punks. I was so hot. My DC2s were outside the door because I kicked them out. Like, y'all get out. I got to talk to these people real quick. And from the moment I left the 3M office, went up to the log room because I was going to tell the chief engineer what I had just done. So he knew it was coming. And he tells me when I walk in the door, Master Chief or Senior Chief, you just can't be yelling at people like that. Like, no, sir, I'm never going in there again. I hate those guys. They don't care about the sailors. They're just down there playing on their keyboards, acting like we're none of us are, we're not trying. Bro, tell me. It's like a rigged deck, right?
It
There's
is.
so
It
much
is.
work. SOPVs, which solenoid operated pilot valves, H+F station push buttons, the fire main system.
You know, and I'm gonna tell you that's why I was really drawn to you as a leader. You know, that passion that you had for DC, right?
Yeah.
The passion that you have and who you are as a leader. You know, that was one thing that always drew me to when I met you. I mean, I met you going through season, but you know, you put it on us. But I could tell, you know, there's a difference of people who love what they do, you know, and passionate about it, and are passionate about the sailors. And you were always real, you know.
Yeah.
So
I accept that. So how long are you on board the Lincoln for?
I did 2 years there too.
Those 2 year hits are good, but it's hard to get to the top of the food chain in those 2 year hits, huh?
Right.
Because I mean, here you are going to aircraft carrier. It's going to take you about a year to really learn what you're doing,
Right.
right? And
From
then you on the
there,
downward side of that, get ready to go somewhere else.
I ended up in SWAS.
That's when you
Fire
went to
school.
firefighting instructor school.
Yeah,
Okay, so it was the Lincoln that made you a chief.
pretty much. Actually, it was SWAS.
You think so?
Yeah, it was SWAS because that's where I was submerged in the rate,
Yeah. Well,
and that's
here's
where
the
I.
thing.
And to be honest with you, that's where I. Well, you might know. You probably know better than I do, but that's when I did all that studying again for chief. Like I buckled down because in the Lincoln, I got married. You know, I met my ex-wife in Sasebo. She was on the ship. We left the Lincoln, ended up in Washington in Bahrain, or that's where the Lincoln was. And she got pregnant. When she got pregnant, I found out she got pregnant when I went to Bahrain. So I came back. She had my son. We were having a rough time there. She wanted to come back to Norfolk. I already knew what this place was about, Hampton Roads. I didn't want to go back, you
Yeah.
know. So that caused some rift there. But her master chiefs, she was an LN. Told her, hey, you need to if you only knew. So yeah, we come here and you know that marriage didn't last long. I already knew
I'm
what
sorry
time
to
it
hear
was.
that, but I'm not. I wish I could say I was surprised, right?
Yeah.
LNs are a breed of their own too. So here's what I would tell you, just from my perspective. Yes, making board mattered, right? And so studying for the advancement exam, that gets you the ticket, right? But I promise you, and look, Surface Warfare Officer School is a great place to go show your strengths because you're surrounded by a bunch of people in the same community as you. And when I sat the board and when I would mentor people, I'd be like, look, you just beat a bunch of your competition because y'all work together at the same location. So if your eval is higher than theirs, you just knock down a few people quickly, right? Like ding, ding, ding. And several of you guys made it there and learn inside Norfolk. So it was a very good competitive field, right? And I guarantee they saw that at the board too. Like, wow, look at all those players in Norfolk at that fire school. It's not easy there because they're all doing great things. But I promise you, when they look back on the Carrier, when they look back on the Chief going to Bahrain, when they look back on, you doing the Djibouti hit and then the safeguard forward deployed, those are all really strong bullet points and or evaluations, but years of experience, right? And I'm telling you that capstone running a fixed system shop, and I'm trying to think about the Lincoln, because the Lincoln was it in the yards when you were on the Lincoln? It was underway
We did end up going into the yards
because the Lincoln went to isn't that a West Coast ship now?
Yeah. So we went into yards, and I was part of the what they call that team?
The Tank Avoid team? Or were you like doing the tag outs and stuff?
All the tag outs.
Yeah. That's a big deal too, though.
Yeah.
That's a big
job. I ran that for the DC department.
That's a big deal. But I think that I guarantee none of that all makes sense to me why you picked up Chief and SWAS. And just so I understand, when you make Chief, what was it, 2017 or 16?
That I made Chief?
Or was it 15? What? Hold on, was
14.
it 14 or 15? 14?
14.
Because I went to Ashland in 16. Okay, so 2014. I'd been at SWAS now about a year at that point. How many years did you have total service when you put on anchors?
I don't even remember, to be honest with you.
So when you went through initiation.
So again, for me, it was all about survival. It was never about, Master Chief, Senior Chief. It was all about the sailor. If I didn't make rank, I didn't make rank. It was me taking care of my people,
Yeah,
because I was that guy, right?
Yeah.
So being that guy, my whole mission was to make sure nobody got what I got.
Well, and truth be told, a lot of people don't even understand the strategy behind the community of the Navy until they make Chief, right? They're just working, right? Yeah. I was the same way, bro. I remember putting my Chiefs package together. I didn't even know what a Chiefs package was, right? I didn't even know. I remember I had to go to NC1 on the ship. Jardea Jenkins, I need to find you, bro. I got to get you on here. We made Chief together. And he had to show me what a Chiefs package even was. Because, I wasn't even up for Chief when I took the test. I took it for LDO purposes, right? They came and got me and said, "You want to be a Chief?" and got me a waiver. I didn't know how to do it, right? I didn't care to do it. I wasn't initiation. What? I got initiated when I was 12 years old in my first organization, bro. What? You know what I'm saying? Like, I've been about. Why would I want to go in there and play reindeer games with a bunch of adults, bro? Like, you're not gonna spank me with nothing on those spit, right? Like, what? Truth be told, that was how I felt. I remember when I started my initiation, I was like, "What are we doing?" Because I knew all them dudes, right? Like, I knew them. Like, so it's SWAS at the fire school. It wasn't nothing to be having real conversation with the Chiefs in the first classes, like real conversations. Yeah. And then all of a sudden, we go from being real conversations to like,
right.
So when you look back on your initiation season, I like to ask this question of the guys who went through the process. It's just, what was your biggest takeaway from that whole thing?
That I couldn't do it without the mess.
Yeah.
Couldn't do it without the mess.
Yeah.
And I'll be honest with you, that was probably the only reason why I stuck it out. It's because I realized I could up until that point, it was all about me taking care of my sailors.
Yeah.
But going through that process, I really realized that if I really wanted to take care of my sailors, like really truly wanted to take care of them, I had to do it.
Man, I remember your final night, right?
Ooh,
all right, you tell it. Let's hear you tell it.
Man. So final night.
Yeah.
Right? I didn't get it. It didn't click. it didn't click. I just didn't get it.
Yeah.
And it was obvious, you know, it was obvious. But coming from where I come from, you know, I just didn't understand what you wanted from me.
Well, and
And I'm
just so everyone understands real quick, our Chiefs mess at Norfolk is 100% engineering damn near, right?
mhm,
So you're not going through a diverse mess of like a ship where you got a bunch of different flavors of rates of community. No, no. We are an engineering schoolhouse. We are an engineering command. So it I love that mess for a lot of things, but it would mentally drain me because it was a bunch of snipes, right? It was like we were it was hot. And so you're coming into that group, it was tough,
yes.
right? It was tough. And like you said, you were exhausted, right?
Yep.
It had been building up for all that. And this is the process, right? This is 100% the process. And you got to hit that wall and you got to come through that wall. And so you said you weren't getting it, right? And you were, and you, it was hard for you. I remember you were
Yeah.
struggling. Uh,
So I think it was the emotions that they were looking for from me, I believe. You know,
right?
and I wasn't one really
You're not going to do that.
emotional.
I knew
Nah,
that. I knew that. I knew that from day one.
obviously,
Because
yeah,
I
because
knew
you're the
you
one who
had
got
that.
me.
Huh?
You're the one who got me.
I know I am. I was known as the selecty whisperer, right? I would bring you through. You know what I'm saying? I was
Yeah.
go get Gary, because Gary would get them through. I would be the one that get them to where because again, you were going up against some hardcore dudes, right? Some Navy Chiefs, the kind you
Yeah.
ain't never gonna see, and they don't get publicity like a
Yeah.
lot of people do, right? They're not gonna be out there being the poster child for the United States Navy, but
Right.
they're the dudes that really making these ships run,
They
right?
said it. We
They're,
ain't making weak chiefs here. You know, they let us know. You know, we don't
hey,
make weak chiefs.
don't make me Chiefs. I've never, I've always been for that, and it's not because of anything we do; it's because of what we do for them.
Mm,
Right? We bring the
well
greatness out
said.
of them, right? It's not about anything we do. It's by telling them that I'm gonna put this bar in front of you. We don't make weak Chiefs, and every time I'm able to get them over that damn bar. Every time, even if I'm pushing them, you know, right? And
Yeah.
I remember, yeah, you were because here's the thing, you really, I think you really had that breakthrough moment after it was all said and done.
I did.
Right? And that happens to a lot of people, bro, especially the ones that been through a lot in their life. They not gonna let their guard down until they can trust again. And then it all
Exactly.
hits them at once, bro, and they can barely stand. And they're like, what you said? What? Like it's like that. And you had a great group, bro. You had Walter Daly.
Yep.
Y'all had a bunch of people in your group, bro. That was a strong group to go through with. Um, yeah, very pivotal moment, man. A very special place in my heart because I was still a DC man at the time, right? And got to be in the mix all the way. Vice as a CMC, you got to kind of play your back in the back
Yeah.
and just, when I was a young scene chief, master chief, oh, bro, that was fun. I got to be out there hitting it, right?
Yeah.
And that day, those days were long because you hit the gas chamber, hit the
Yep.
fire
Oh, I loved
chamber.
it.
Yeah,
Loved it.
you were getting it. So after SWAS Norfolk, what is your career looking like at that point? And where do you go to next?
To the James E. Williams.
TDG?
Hmm.
Okay. You
To
going
the
there as a
James E.
chief?
Williams. Went there as a chief.
How was
So
that?
I had orders. So I had gotten orders to Japan again, right? And Chuck Williams was my detailer at the time.
Mhm.
And I'm dropping. But anyway, got orders to Japan. At the same time, I'm finishing up my divorce from my first wife and get custody of my son. My wife now was my high school sweetheart way back then when I joined the Navy, right? So in between that, we reconnect.
Yeah.
She moves down here. I end up getting custody of my son. She ends up getting legal custody of him as well. I go through season at the same time she moves down here.
I remember.
And then Chuck wanted to send me to Japan. So I go through a whole screening process. She gets approved. I get approved. They won't approve my son because he's got asthma. So Chuck says, anchor up, Chief.
Oh, hell no.
I'm going to send you Geo Batch. That's exactly all jokes aside, I was like, Chuck, I said, I tell you what. When he said that, I said, I tell you what. I said, when that plane touches down, I'm not going to be on it.
Yeah.
Click.
Yeah.
I ain't going.
Yeah.
You know?
You just got your son, bro.
Yeah.
You a single parent, essentially. And yes, she got legal. Come on, bro. What we talking about?
Yep.
Okay, so what happens next?
So he tries to send me to Japan. I go in to talk to Bert. Danny. I was like, hey, Danny, I need a favor. You know, this is the situation.
Yep.
Right? So Danny calls in a favor for me, you know. So from there, I went to 3M school. And then I went to DCASE.
Okay.
Out of there. So during that time, I had orders to, it wasn't the Williams, it was the Dunham. I was headed to the Dunham. But when I went to 3M school, Chuck changed my orders last minute and sent me to the James E. Williams.
How was he able to do that if you were at 3M? Like you were released from DC, it sounds like. That's what Danny did to get you out of that.
Right.
He got you in a special program to go to 3M, and then Chuck got you back from 3M to DC?
Yep.
Okay. And then you got orders so you go to 3M school for now, no reason, evidently. I mean, it makes you a better DC man, I guess, because you understand the 3M program better.
And then I hate 3M. Yeah.
I hate that whole program. So then you get to the ship as a DC chief going to our division?
Correct. So, and it looked like the lights had been turned off for 2 years because prior to that, there was some stuff that took place on the ship and half the chief's mess was gone. The triad was gone, you know, so we got a brand new triad. You had engineering wise, you had 4 chiefs and 2 of them were getting ready to retire. So they ended up being 2 chiefs, an EMC and a DCC. EMC didn't want top. I had to take top. So now I'm running top, right? Until we started getting all the chiefs mess back together and stuff like that.
So you're the department leading chief petty officer at that point in time.
Yeah. So,
and you're a relatively new chief.
Brand new.
Which really don't matter, but it's still a thing, right? I mean,
right.
I always get I don't like to call people like new chiefs or baby chiefs, but I mean you're new to the mess and new to the politics of what that may bring and what that may be. Okay, and so how did you like that tour on board that ship?
So I didn't have a good mess on that ship.
Okay.
Didn't have a good mess. So, you know, that was my first exposure to the real deal, and I had got a sour taste. So,
tough, man.
You know, after that, it was like, because, you know, coming from SWAS and going through, you know, season and all that, I was ready. You know, I'm ready. So when I get there and I'm like, hold on, wait a minute. This ain't what it's about. You know, this ain't what we're supposed to be about.
What were the things that come to mind where you're like, they were not a good mess? Like, what were the top 2 or 3 things that just were not there that you were looking for?
The support, right? So I was looking for the support for 1. For 2, I was getting backdoored by 3MC.
I'm sorry, bro. They just hung you up on the wall of DCCs that went through hell, right?
Yeah.
I mean, and especially Norfolk is known for that. Let's be honest, right? I don't know what it is about the Norfolk waterfront. San Diego's tough too. But okay, so 3MCs kept not happy with your guys' 3M performance, probably.
Right. So 3MCs trying to come through the back. And then, you know, I'm talking to my CMC, you know, and we was close. And I'm like, hey, you know, this is everything that's going on. These are the challenges, you know. But I'm kind of salty because I believe that, you know, he allowed a lot of that stuff to take place. So
Yeah.
That was it, man. After that, I was like, okay, I'm done, son.
No, I think that were they just not so just support. You had backstabbing, which you felt like was coming from the 3MC. Now, there's three sides to every story. I get that part, but I've already said how I feel about how the 3M program is not properly freaking distributed, managed. The math don't math, right? You guys got
Right.
way too much to do. And then let me get parts, let me get materials, let me get resources, and run all the damn drills, and do all the DC training, and do all that. People don't understand how much work it really takes for a D. I was a very
They
successful.
don't.
I'm here to tell you. The only way I found the success that I found was that I went outside of my whole chain of command and went directly to the XO and the CEO and the master and sold them on what I needed as a DC2, as a DC1. Even my chief was like, "You did what?" Like, bro, I shot my shot. I'm a hustler, baby. Like, I'm
Yeah.
not built to just wait for them to give me. No. If I gotta make my family eat off this opportunity, and I'm not stopping for you, bro. Like, away we go. And then as a senior chief and as a chief, well, I did a one of these with a guy named Rory Bacon. If you ever get a chance to watch that one, right, go watch me and Rory talk.
All
Rory
right.
was the EOA on board the George Washington, and he said, Gary, we'd be in the mess, like waiting on you to quit, waiting on you to like there go Gary again, ringing the bells. There go Gary again, ringing the bells. He's like, we would be in the. He's like, and bro, you never quit. And I did one of these episodes that's coming up here pretty soon. One of my DC2s off the George Washington jumped on the podcast with me, right? He only did 4 years in the Navy, got out. Now he's a dad, got 2 kids, but he knew me back in the thick of it when I was a senior chief and he was a DCFN, DC3, DC2. And he was like, we talked about it. Like, bro, we were that frog going down the snake's throat, still fighting the damn
Oh
frog.
no.
I had that picture up in my DC classroom. I was like, we are that frog. We are going to fight. We are going to scrap. We are going to do whatever. And if anybody got a problem with us, they can expect a short bald head dude with a red hat to come
Keep
through their
fighting.
door and it's over. But I've seen so many other of my peers, so many other parts of that community get left out to dry, bro, on
Yeah.
ship that acted like, oh, it's just that chief's fault. No. This whole thing is command safety, command responsibility. Instead of just making that person feel like they're going to get fired, how about you all freaking rally and support that person and meet them where they got to go, or chop it up in a way that makes sense for the whole ship to really do it? Because there's no way ER9, the DCPO shop, right? Who you going to get? We're going to get the people we get.
Right.
And I love them people because they always did good for me, right? But when they came to me, they almost always had a story,
Right.
right?
Right.
And I'm sorry to hear that you had that rough time.
It's all good. It was like the perfect storm, So we had the ship stuff going on, and then my grandma died, in that time. Yeah. So grandma passed away. My wife said she wanted a divorce. She didn't recognize who I was. So it was the perfect storm,
That's a tough time to be on sea duty, bro.
Man.
Like, that's the other thing. And you on sea duty now, right?
Yep.
Sea duty is hard because now you're working long hours. You got all these things you got to do, and you're getting underway. And you a single dad, essentially, because you got your wife saying she don't want to be with you. She was supposed to family care plan type stuff, right?
Right.
So are you able to just drop retirement papers?
I did.
Okay.
Drop retirement papers. And to be honest, I was pegged out on a stress continuum.
Yeah.
Because they came aboard and it was like, look, this is this. And I was
You're orange. You're high orange.
I was done. And
Done.
didn't even know it.
Bro, say less. I've been there. Yeah. So when you retired, did you do a ceremony?
No.
That's how done you were.
Yeah. Just let me go.
Okay. So what did you do? Okay. So after you got out of the Navy, retired, did you have a plan?
I went to work for Moody Marine. It's a valve company. They do a lot of valves for the naval ships.
Okay.
more pack valves, and all the big valves as a project manager for them.
Okay.
So
That's a good plan.
yeah.
And so, I mean, thank you for sharing all of your story. Now, what was your transition been like into the world of being a veteran? And do you have any advice for people that are looking at entering that chapter of their life, that season of life?
So I'll tell you right now, it's an information overload, right? Because the Navy has to give you or set you up for the transition process. But there's so much information coming at you. So if you don't have a plan, you don't have, you know, what you want to be in life after the Navy, figured out, you're going to stumble, right? And you're going to stumble if you don't have that right mentorship or leadership next to you to say, hey, this is what's coming next. So my recommendation would be to anybody that's getting ready to transition, go through that process, is talk to somebody who's already gone through that process so they can help you, so you have an idea of what to expect when you do come out. I have a few sailors that are getting ready to transition right now. Just was with one yesterday. And he retired yesterday, actually. And, his pay is messed up. So now, and I told him, I was like, man, I tried to tell you, set yourself up for at least 3 months, pay as much debt off as you can prior to transitioning out, and then set yourself up at least 3 months, because you don't know if your pay is going to be messed up or not.
So get yourself a nest egg, right? Get that ready to go.
Right.
How about when you first got out of the Navy? Was it weird?
Still is.
Yeah, still is, right?
Still
My son,
is.
I used to tell people all the time, I can't wait to retire someday and have my younger son tell me, like, hey, Dad, you used to be in the Navy, huh? Right. And literally, and I teach high school ROTC now, right? So I'm still involved in a lot of the military-ish world, and my kids all call me CMC at school and all that stuff, right? But my younger son, Lincoln, we were out in the pool yesterday or a couple days ago, and he was like, hey, Dad, you used to be in the Navy, huh? And I was like, bro, you don't even know what you just said to me, dog. Like, I love that for us, because we got out 3 years ago now. He's going into 6th grade, and he's already forgetting all of the stress, all the
Wow.
pressure, all of the times Dad was on the phone. But I used to be on the car and the car be on speaker, having deliberate, direct conversations with chief petty officers about business because we were working and my kids were in the back of the car listening. And you know how I was a monster, bro.
No sugar.
None. Straight chaser, dude. I'm coming at you. And everything I said made sense. It had bars. I could have maybe whispered it, but I'm not a whisperer. Never happened, right? I'm a DC member. I say it from the chest,
He's
right?
coming out.
And bro, we can either take our shirts off and tussle, or we can figure it out. But this is my truth. And now your turn, go. And if you don't want to say what you got to say back, that ain't my fault, right? You get your words in, homie, or not. And so now for my sons, so much has changed since those years. I mean, like I almost never, I don't curse, like very rarely, right? And it's not like I made a conscious decision to no longer swear. I just stopped, right? Don't smoke anymore. I remember 2018, I just had a cigarette and I was like, I'm done, right? I never smoked again. And I smoked from 1995 till 2018, and just one day stopped, right? Don't know why, don't know how. Now I don't drink anymore, right? Because for me, it's the devil, right? For me, it's the devil, right? For me, it's the devil. And so my wife has been on me for so many years to manage it, because every time I let the devil in my house, it's my own fault, right? And then I just one day decided I'm not going to drink anymore. But then the best thing I did is I told my wife. And so now whenever I try to slip, she's like, well, I thought you said, like, oh,
Accountable.
you're right. Yeah, for sure. And it's not even, but it's because the devil gets in my head. He's like, bro, you need to drink. You need to get that drink. And it's like, I'll go make me some coffee and call it a day. Like, So
it's about the next chapter,
And trying to recognize that it's the journey never stops. I welcome I welcome the opposition, bro. I hope today's a hard day. I don't want easy days because
Yes.
easy days make me nervous, bro. Like
Yes.
I'm just easy. I love easy days, but while my people are all chilling, I'm plotting for the next move because they're at their. I tell my sons, y'all, you think we got this on accident? No, bro. And
Right.
you don't gotta carry the weight of this on your shoulders yet, but trust me, someday you'll have that on you. And it's strategy. It's strategy, it's faith, it's work, and it's humility. It's all of that, right? Everything we teach during the Chiefs initiation, what I love about what Chiefs initiation became for me, and what I leverage it for even in my life now is that was the beginning of me building my leadership development legacy, right? I
Hmm.
was using Chiefs initiation to build leaders, right? And then I would run it all year long in different ways, right? And I find that it works because people they want to be a part of a community. They want to feel same thing with church, right? Same thing with finding God. Like where none of us are meant to do this alone,
Right.
right? And so when you can get connected to a good church, to a good community, those things are going to bring value in your life. And it's not for the good days.
Right.
It's
Right.
not for the good days,
No.
right? It's going to go sideways. Hey man, Tony, bro, we about to land this thing, dog. I think we're about there, bro. All right, so here we go. I got this thing that I do at the end of every one of these shows where I ask like some rapid fire questions, right? And you're gonna go ahead and look. I don't need you to nuke the answers.
Did you
Don't
pause
try
it?
to, huh?
Did you pause it?
No, I'm here. Can you see me?
Yeah, I can see you. No, I'm asking, can I go? I need to go to the head real quick
Yeah, for sure. Here we go.
before you rapid fire on me. Appreciate you.
Oh, too easy, bro. And hey, this has been a good one, but sometimes we got to go in, right? All right, here we go. Uh, most valuable leadership lesson you learned in the service or in life so far. Can you sum it down into one lesson?
And to win?
Into
Sum it
one
down to
lesson.
what? One
One
lesson?
leadership lesson.
Keep digging.
Keep digging. Don't
Don't
stop working.
don't don't stop.
Okay, I like it.
Keep
Don't stop.
dream big. Don't dream small. Dream big. Dream as big as you can dream because the opportunity is there and the military will afford you that opportunity.
Okay. Now, from your time in the service and even your life after the service, what do you see as being one of the biggest leadership challenges that teams are facing today?
Society.
Okay.
Society today, I believe, is making weak men. Everything is too easy for us. With the technology and everything like that. Um, I would say society is a complete different society. So I think society is our challenge.
All right. And men need to stand up for that, right? I'm with
Right.
you. Okay. So how can parents you have a son who's now a teenager, right? Both of our oldest sons are about the same age, about 17. Uh, how can you as a parent use leadership skills to best connect and guide with your teenage child?
Communication. So the biggest thing that I learned with my son, at least, is I make time. I make it a point to make time with him to have these type of communicate these type of sit downs and communications. I try to get into his world, to see where he's at mentally, to see what he's going through, and so he can feel comfortable communicating with me. Because that's one thing in the beginning he didn't feel comfortable communicating. He feared me, and I didn't want him to fear me.
I'll tell you the other thing, man. I'm gonna just piggyback on that real quick. When my dad would share stories with me about what he went through as a teenager, it wasn't until I was older, because when I was a teenager, I was so wild. He didn't want to. We could barely even be in the same room, right? But when I was older, I was just like, I never knew that, bro. That's crazy. What if I would have known that when I was younger? So when I started doing crazy, I could have talked to him a little bit more because I would understand that he had been there a little bit. You know what I'm saying? Uh,
Hmm.
and I've always been very open with my sailors, my students, my people, my kids. Like I hang my GED on the wall in my classroom, bro. Like But above all, that's my master's degree and my SEA graduation and all that other stuff, because it's not about where you start. It ain't even about how you finish. It's about how you run the race. You know what I'm saying?
Mm.
Yeah. All right. Uh, how can veterans best leverage their leadership skills in the civilian world, do you think?
I think that comes naturally because we've already been through it, you know. I guess it would depend on the vet. You know, some people get out and they want nothing to do with it. For me, again, it was my career was about survival, so it's part of who I am. You know, I may be retired, be a retired vet, but I'm still a sailor.
Yeah.
I'm a die a
Facts.
sailor, you know,
Facts. I hear you.
and so for me, it's what I do, you know, in my everyday life.
Okay.
It's part of who.
Uh, I'm with you, bro. Trust me. I tell my students, y'all forget I'm a pirate. Like I chose to be good on this shit. I'm an outlaw, and that's the way I think. So when I say I want to go do something, they say, "Well, can we do it?" I'm like, "You who you talking to? Can we do it? What? Why would we not? Matter of fact, no, we're going to do it because I'm going to teach you. As long as it's not illegal, unethical, or immoral, you can do almost anything you want in this world. And I can do almost any of those things. And as long as my wife agrees. If Eric
Yes.
ever says go, you better watch out. You better fall back, right? I'm gonna say knock you out, bro. Like,
Yes.
that's it.
I'm
All
gonna
right,
tell you, the
bro.
only thing that keeps me under wraps is my spiritual walk. Like I'm submerged right now in the Lord, man. Because if it wasn't for my walk, it's too easy. It's too easy to be that other guy. I call it the other guy.
I remember when I was retiring from the Navy, and what I had that conversation with someone. I was like, how do I be a regular person, law abiding citizen, and be not in the Navy? Right? Because that was how I stayed so good after I finally grew up, which was probably, I joined the Navy 97. Truth be told, I don't think I was actually solid until about 03, 04. Like I was
Mm.
wild until then, bro. And Erica and I were both wild as young people, right? We was
Mm.
just, it wasn't until 03, 04 when we finally got locked in. And so I had to really think about, like, how do I be a good person? It ain't that hard, and just keep living by the same values and the codes and the ethics or whatever it is. So I still leverage honor, courage, and commitment, right? I just added
Mm.
on a few other ones that are more about who I am, like relentless, right? Perseverance. Like these are some other things that I use to identify who I am. And then I also really, really, really want to keep meeting people where they're at. And so I'm not afraid to go into the jungle. I'm not afraid to
Not at
go into where
all.
the lions are at, and to show you a way to a better place to hunt. You know what I'm saying? And then we'll figure that out. And so, but I get it because there's always that fear, bro. And there's always that fear. And that's the journey.
It
That's the
is.
journey. And that's why you're still winning, bro. Okay, so you're on the ship. It's the weekend. You looking forward to the pizza or the wings?
Wings.
The wings, okay. Okay, on the boat, you got two choices. You can get the berthing cleaners or the worker party. Which one you want?
Working party.
Yeah, I like it. All right. We're gonna watch a movie in the shop. You want to watch a De Niro movie or a Pacino movie?
Pacino all day.
Pacino all day. Okay. Looking back on your career, man, what was your favorite duty station?
I would say my first the kid, the first ship, my first introduction.
Yeah. And you talk about JJ, bro. You first gave me the insight into who he was, but I would tell you, uh, I leveraged him for mentorship many years after you and I first met, right?
Hmm.
Because I didn't want to just get to know him and all of a sudden drop someone else's name real quick. I wanted to build my thing for who I was. But I was going through a real tough time, man. And I reached out to JJ when I was going to Guam because he had been to Guam CMC, but then I was going through a lot. And I told him the whole thing. And I dropped a lot on him in a message, right? I don't even know him like that, bro. I just talked to somebody. And he just gave me he just basically said, man, I don't even know what to tell you. I'm sorry you're going through that. And if all I can say is that if somebody was ever putting me through something like that, I would just leave. I wouldn't even worry about it. I would just go do something else because what can you say? What can you do, right? And he didn't have to do. He didn't have to give me that information. He didn't have to take the time to write me back, and he did. And so I hope to get him on here someday because we've never met before in person. We've never
Really.
had a conversation. But I will tell you, he seems like a stand-up guy, and
I'm
I
gonna
would
tell
love.
you what I love about him, and I love him because he's like a big brother to me. Hey, he is my big brother. He never forgot where he came from, right? So if you want to hear a testimony, my man's got a testimony. He never forgot where he came from, and he's always loved the sailors, and more importantly, he's 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 another one of you. You know what I mean?
You always
You
said
know,
that, and yeah, I saw he's dropped his retirement papers. We messaged briefly, and after I saw his retirement announcement, I was like, "Bro, I got to get you on." And he said he's with it. I love how he said he's like, "Hey, I'm glad to help you out with your journey." I'm like,
he's
hey, I feel that. I feel that. So hopefully I
real,
get him
right?
on. I told him I was like, I'm gonna have Tony on pretty soon. Maybe he'll see your episode and be like, "Oh, I got to get on there."
Yeah,
We'll see. Because nothing against the other shows or whatnot, but there ain't too many snipes out there talking that stuff, right? And that's
yeah,
my background. I
love
wasn't
it.
an aviator. I'm not a freaking no. I was a deck plate sailor, black shoe DC engineer, all day, every day, Gator Navy, right?
Love it.
All right, moving on. What was your favorite Liberty port?
Again, it's gonna go back to Panama.
Yeah, the
Yeah,
first one
yeah. That was my first. I
before
mean,
you
that's
got
the
to
one
Iraq.
that's stuck in my head. Panama, and yeah, because it was just beautiful, man. I mean, the jungle, being in the jungle, coming from the city, and then that's my first exposure, to tropical environment or anything. So
Bruh, that was me
Panama,
in Japan, dog. I'm not gonna lie. When I got to Japan, I was like, "Yo, we living in the jungle for real, bro."
yes,
Yeah. Okay.
taxable at that.
Yeah. What was the hardest qualification you ever earned through your life or through your military career?
That would be my East Waspan.
Okay, that's a good one.
You know,
Big one, right?
that's
Big one.
that's when I realized, I'm not as stupid as my dad said I was. You know what I
Oh
mean?
man,
So
say that one again, bro. That's powerful, bro.
yeah,
And I'm sorry whenever I hear people have to deal with that because as parents, our words mean so much to these children. And look, I'm a direct communicator. If my son does something knucklehead, I'm gonna tell him, bro, you being a knucklehead right now. You
yeah.
know, but we gotta just,
That was
man,
my fire. That was my fire. That was my fuel to be better than that dude.
I
And
feel it.
that's what I used.
There you go. I mean, everybody got to pick something to beat, right? That's just how it
Hmm.
goes. What was if you had somebody coming up through the ranks, young person, would you recommend they do an overseas tour or a stateside tour?
Overseas.
Okay, I get that. What about do you have a favorite movie series?
No.
No? Okay. I like it. All right. Would you rather be independent or on a team?
Well, I'm introverted at heart, but I love a team, right?
Okay.
If that makes sense. Like I
You
love a
got
team because you can accomplish so much more with a team, right?
okay.
But naturally, I'm introverted, so but I have that switch. I hit that switch. It's a whole nother level. It's a whole nother me. Um, but I find peace in being by myself.
So what I'm hearing is you would prefer to be independent if you had your way.
Yeah.
That's okay. Nothing wrong with that, bro. I think that the fact that you know yourself and you also know how you can sacrifice some of your personal choices to be a part of a team that's what matters. Again, that's one of the things we worked on during Chiefs initiation, right?
Hmm.
Was to teach you how to do that. But then what you required from the team was the things that make your sacrifice valid, right? And the
Right.
minute a person like you realizes y'all playing my sacrifice, oh, it's over, bro. It's a wrap. It's a wrap. And
That's it.
I get that, right? I get that. And I've been there, so I can appreciate that. Do you have a personal leadership philosophy? Is it just keep digging? Is it just don't ever quit?
No, I really don't. I never really gave thought to that one.
I mean, I think that's what it is, bro. I think that your personal leadership philosophy is that it's not over, right? It's not over. It's not over. Don't never stop because it's not over, right?
That's right.
And I think that's your thing. And I ask these questions in this order because I want to refine it down to the message so that people are listening and they can hear it. And y'all, it really is that simple. The sun is going to come up tomorrow, right?
Got to keep
And before
fighting.
you go to bed, say those prayers, get right with God, get that good sleep in you, wake up tomorrow, get some of that good water in you, and then shoot, move, and communicate, bro. Let's go. Chop, chop. Turn through, baby. Let's go. Make the work happen.
That's
All
it.
right. Okay. We got deck plate leadership, institutional and technical expertise, professionalism, character, loyalty, active communication, and a sense of heritage. Out of those different subgroups, those little values that we had from the Navy Chiefs mess, which one was your favorite?
Deck plate leadership, baby.
Baby, I love it. I used to tell me I'm a deck plate stomper. I'm not a deck plate leader, I'm a deck plate stomper. Yeah. Would you rather lead or follow?
Lead.
That's what's funny, right? You an introvert, but you're like, put me in charge though, boss.
Just comes, I'm gonna say it comes natural because you got to be a good follower to be a good leader, you know.
Yeah.
And
Okay.
but I don't mind standing out front, and I don't mind standing in the back because if I'm in the back, I'm helping bringing everybody with me.
I love it, man. All right, bro, that is it. You have any save rounds or alibis?
What do you mean?
At the end of a meeting, we typically ask if anybody has any last shots they want to shoot at the person leading the meeting. So that's a saved round. Have you been saving any gotcha questions you want to send my way so I can answer it, or an alibi? Hey, everyone, I know we're tired of being in the meeting, but I have an alibi. I would like to bring up one more topic. And everyone's like, oh, bro, shut up already, dog. What we doing? So at the end of meetings, we would say, all right, anybody got any save rounds or alibis? Otherwise, everyone hold your peace. We move it out.
Gotcha. Well, in the end of this, I just want to say thank you, Gary, for this opportunity to come on here and be part of your show. Thank you for who you are, man. You've always been a big part of my career and obviously my life at this moment now. So, you're a blessing. You always will be a blessing to many. You still blessing people. You blessing the people and their kids now. So
yeah, right.
That's crazy. But that's your nature, man. Those are some things those are your talents. That's what God has given you. So, continue to feed into that, and your world is going to continue to be what you want it to be.
Man, thank you for that, bro. I accept that. And I'll send the same back to you, bro. You a real one. I know that God's got great things in store for you. You keep working with those men and those women that are dealing with addiction challenges, that are working through faith challenges, sharing your story, helping them figure out life. And just, the goal is to not be perfect. The goal is to, like you said, bro, just don't quit. Don't quit, and to be able to look back. My favorite thing to look back behind the ship is to see the wake, right? And you can see where we've been coming from. But when you look all to the right and the left, it's a big ocean. Those are all the places we ain't been yet. There's so much out there that don't just spend time looking in the rearview mirror when that front mirror window is such a better view.
Yeah.
Right. So, bro, I appreciate your time. I appreciate your energy. I look forward to talking to you more in the future, homie. And that if you ever need anything, hit me up. I got you.
Will do.
All right.
Much love.
Everyone listening to the sound of our voices, if you like this stuff, like, subscribe, share, hit the podcast, all that. All right.
Must do it.
Let's go. I'll see you later, bro.
All right now.
And I know I was born for this. I know I was born for this. Don't care for the critics, my words are like physics, a force that they can't stop. They just don't get it, I think they forget I'm not done till I'm on top. I know